Hello, friends. Perhaps because of all the New Year's excitement, I recorded this episode with the wrong microphone, so all of my audio sounds really weird. Thank you all for listening. Oh man, how did we get out here?
Whoa, I think we finally found it. Maybe.
Yeah, it looks really blue.
It looks like the ocean. Dun, dun,
Oh my gosh.
dun. Is it
What's
our
all
ocean?
that other stuff out there?
Our
Oh
ocean.
no, wait.
Our generic ocean.
Oh yeah, that one that we have. No, I think it's not the one that we own.
It's not the
think
ocean, it's an ocean, right?
Yeah, it's probably someone else's ocean.
Looking for an ocean.
Yeah, we found an ocean.
Hey, but do you know what
And
else
it's
I...
full of...
Do you know what else I see?
What? Yeah, what?
I see you.
Oh. Well, here we are, everyone. You're probably wondering what's going on. Well, probably not, because you saw the title of the episode.
It's
But
2023, almost.
if you, like me, forgot for a moment one of the classic lines from Avatar 2, The Way of Water, we're talking about Avatar 2, The Way of Water.
It's also
That's
titled...
what that was from.
I think I see you as the most iconic line from the first movie, besides, of course, "We're not in Kansas anymore."
Oh. I don't remember, because I watched 1 and 2 very close together to prep for this, so they kind of blend together.
Well, I see you. I wish I knew the Na'vi for it. You know, earlier this year, maybe it was on this podcast, I was very fascinated by the fact that Wikipedia, I think this was during the re-release, I noticed that Wikipedia has like an entire article about the Na'vi grammar. Not the Na'vi language. It does have one for the Na'vi language, but the fact that it has one for the grammar was very interesting to me. Not that I know the Na'vi language. Should I learn, guys? Do you think that'd be good to have in my back pocket?
I don't think you should learn. I don't know who should learn the Na'vi language. It would be neat to learn about.
But
I'm curious about diver sign language, because I wonder if it's, if it's like they're ones that are more French or more English.
I think if I remember right, and we can get into this when we get to our main topic, which is in fact Avatar: The Way of Water. I remember reading that C.J. Jones, who's the actor from Baby Driver, who's like Baby Driver's dad in that movie, I believe he was brought on board to come up with some Na'vi sign language for the movie, because obviously if the Na'vi are going to have their own language, they have their own sign language, because otherwise it's like, what the hell? Like, it'd be very weird if they were just doing a already created form of sign language, if we've already gone to so much effort to give them their own language.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that, this is also our New Year's special, which means since it's been long enough since the intro music, I can finally start singing "For all the acquaintance be forgot and never those inclined."
Is that the lyrics?
I don't know. I just made it up.
Oh, that's fine. You normally get pretty drunk before you sing that song.
Or you are watching It's a Wonderful Life and the subtitles come up and you feel the urge to sing along.
Scuba divers have their very own sign language. It's called scuba sign.
I wonder if that's what is used for Avatar: The Way. I mean, I'm sure eventually there'll be like a big breakdown of the sign language, like there was a big breakdown for the original language. I don't know if it's happened yet, though.
I'm sure there's got to be a book that's like about that whole thing. That's to talk about the movie and kind of go in weird order of everything. That's one of my favorite parts of the original movie, is when they pull out the textbook for the Na'vi and it looks like an actual textbook. That's very cool to me.
I mean, I think in general, we'll get into it more later. I think what makes Avatar so cool as a franchise to me is how very detail oriented it is, in a way that not even like the Star Wars prequels are. Because, the Star Wars prequels are kind of the same thing, where like George Lucas is like, here's exactly how this machinery works. And it's very cool. I think Avatar is that, but like up to 11. And I kind of really appreciate that about it. But
what else? What have you been up to that's not Avatar related? Now that we're in the new year and the Christmas time.
I was going to ask you how your Christmas was, but I can go first. It's no. That made me sound like I was trying to guilt you. I figured we were both going to talk about our Christmases.
It's just, what'd you do?
Well, first I drove in the snow. Well, I drove to my brother's house in the snowstorm. Then my older brother drove us home, afterwards to Indiana, and then we kind of were snowed in for a lot of it. And then we went to go see The Fabelmans, which was a nice family outing. I actually was going to show off a present to you, because you know how last week I was listening to our podcast earlier today. Very rare that we are recording it so soon to the release of our other podcast. I can say this, but there was a part of it where it's like I'm always like, I always get exactly what I want on my list, and I'm never surprised anymore. I'm never happy about anything anymore. But look at what my brother got me, and I'll describe to the listeners. Don't worry. He got me this wall art of the music box that I think is really cool. He found it at an art shop.
Oh, that is really nice.
So I'm like,
nice. It's a nice framed, and it's got some glass on it.
It says Truffaut Fest, and it's during an Orson Welles Fest. I don't think this ever actually happened, because I don't usually do multiple filmmaker retrospectives. But it's cool. I think the painting's really beautiful, so it's nice. Yeah. I got a lot of other gifts too that I actually really like too. But all the other stuff I got was stuff I was it was all stuff I was expecting, but to different quantities than what I was expecting. So that also is always nice too, where it's like, whoa, you're giving me this much of what I asked for? That's cool. But, Christmas is about getting things. It's not about giving things. And I gave my mom a meat thermometer, so.
Oh, that's a good buy.
Yeah, I gave, now that we're here, I can reveal everything that I gave my parents as a follow-up. Everything I gave my family. I gave.
1 week later.
All right, here we go. So, first off, I gave, I haven't given Julius it yet, but by the time this episode is out, Julius will have received it. A copy of Malcolm X on 4K, the Criterion release. For my bad movie gift exchange, I gave Moonfall and Morbius to two separate people. From back, I got the Nutjob family pack of Nutjob 1 and 2, and the other one hasn't arrived in the mail yet. Then I also gave my friend Metkayina, who will be on this eventually, I gave her Nope on DVD, because she only has a DVD player, and I always give her a movie we saw that year. I'm trying to remember who my third... I think those are my three friends. And then for my family, I gave my mom the meat thermometer, my dad a Years for Consumer Reports, which he never asked for, but my mom always points out he wants it. I gave my aunt something that is still arriving in the mail, which is a series of indexing tabs for the Catholic Church. I gave my brother, I said this last week, I gave him Sound and Metal on Blu-ray, and I gave my older brother a privacy screen for his iPhone and a life straw, which is something I did not know existed, but it looks kind of cool, but I also think kind of sounds sketchy. I wouldn't use it myself. Do you know what a life straw is?
Yeah, I think they work.
Okay, mostly. Well, my brother asked for it, and I was like, I've never heard of this before, so.
Something I would never personally want to use, but I do think that they actually, kind of do what they say they're gonna do.
My brother hikes a lot. For the listeners at home, a life straw is a straw that you can just stick into, any drinking water, and it's supposed to filter it while you drink it. So, my brother who hikes a lot, he might just want to, go, ooh, I'm really thirsty. Let me go drink some river water. There you go. He's got a life straw. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It amazes me. I was watching Silence the other day.
Great film.
And, every time they go for the river water, I don't know. I can't believe people still do that or have done that. But, yeah.
Well, I was talking about media watching over the holidays. The weird thing I did was I rewatched all of season 1 of Ted Lasso because I just put it on one afternoon. Well, it was the first night I came back, my mom's like, I don't want to watch the movie. I'm too tired. Let's just watch an episode of TV. And I put on Ted Lasso, and then she watched 4 episodes of Ted Lasso. And then we just kind of were like, we have to finish season 1 before we leave because otherwise mom's never gonna know how it ends. And, it's a really interesting experience because you watched Ted Lasso?
No, I don't have Apple TV.
Oh, okay. Well, sometimes it's like the thing they give out for free, I've noticed, on planes. It's you can watch season 1 of Ted Lasso because you gotta subscribe for season 2. But anyway, the interesting thing I found out about it is my dad kind of has this reaction to anything about divorce where he's just like, this is so depressing. I'm like, what do you... And he's like, I don't know. He was like, I don't get why we're not getting their backstory on why they felt their relationship fall apart. I'm like, because it's not about that. It's about the soccer team. We're not going to cut back to his wife in Kentucky trying to figure out where her marriage went wrong because that's not what this show is. He's like, I just don't think that's very honest with the audience. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And this was a very interesting lead up to him picking the Fabelmans. So I'm like, you do know this is about a divorce, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I do. And then when we left the movie, I'm like, I'm upping it to a 5 out of 5. It's like, oh, it's too dismal to be a 5 out of 5 for me. I'm like, well, I don't know what you're expecting.
It's about divorce.
And
this is what you wanted.
Apparently on the car ride back, because I rode with my mom and my aunt back from The Fabelmans, my brothers convinced him, no, it was a good movie. You're just being ridiculous because you expect in the 1960s for all these mechanisms to be in place. So he's like, why didn't they go to couples therapy? I'm like, because it wasn't a big thing in 1962. So that's probably why. Also, I mean, I won't get too much in The Fabelmans talk because I know you haven't seen it yet still, but like, it's something where I think it's really funny to look at the movie and like imply that it's pro-divorce or like it does. I think The Fabelmans actually very weirdly takes a very clear side on which is the guilty party in this divorce happening, which I think is interesting, but also it's like, I don't see how anyone can take away the movie go from the movies like, well, this was an amicable divorce and everyone's happy about it because it's very clear one person is very happy about it and the other person is emotionally destroyed by it. So it's like, no, I mean, it's not happy. So like, what were you expecting? You know? But all this to say is my mom liked Ted Lasso, but my dad gave up on it after like 5 episodes. But
after 5 episodes, he wasn't
watching it like a lot.
Like a whole season.
He kept coming in and out, and then after 5 episodes, he was just like, "Nah, this is dumb," and he like slammed the door to his room on his way out. I'm just like, I don't know what you. Again, I don't know. Like, it's a soccer show. I don't know why you expect this to be this great work about how couples need to work their way through a divorce, because that's not what this show was ever marketed as, and it's not what this show should be. Because this show's got a lot more stuff on its mind than that. I like Ted Lasso. I'm basic. Sorry. How was your Christmas break?
I mean, it's not about being basic. It's who on earth has Apple TV?
That's I do because I got it. You get it for free when you get a new iPhone for like 6 months. And then I just kept it because Ted Lasso's like, and honestly, I mean, they might be upping the rate now, but for a while I think it was like $5 a month, and to me, like $5 a month is nothing compared to some of my other services. To have like Ted Lasso available and like basically a movie a month that I'm interested in, sure, I'll keep Apple TV.
Did you watch The Foundation, which is the other thing that I know exists?
No, I haven't watched that. I need to watch Severance on it, though. That's really the big show I want to watch.
Oh, that's right. That's the other one that...
Well, Foundation is a show on it. I've just heard it's mid. Severance I want to check out, and I want to also check out The After Party still. Because that's Phil Lord's show that's on it that he directed every episode of. So, but I don't know. I'm a very as someone who's canceled HBO Max, canceled their Hulu, like, you know, I cancel all my services. I've never felt any reason to cancel my Apple TV because it's like, it's too cheap for me to really like want to cancel, you know?
Spoiler alert, you use my Hulu and HBO Max.
It's true. Well, to be fair, okay.
What do you mean you cancel?
Well, I canceled my HBO Max because my I canceled my HBO Max because my partners with it canceled on me. So it's like, well, I can't pay $15 a month for this now. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate your HBO Max and your Hulu. And also, I let you use my Disney Plus, so we do trade. We do.
Well, I'm just like, you're taking a big moral stance, and I'm like,
I'm not taking a big. I'm just saying it's not. I'm saying if Apple TV Plus increased to $10 a month, I would 100% cancel it. But like, if HBO Max is going to cost me $15 a month, hell no, I'm not going to spend that much money on HBO Max a month.
Yeah, I mean, even then, it's like, I don't know, it's a good deal, but you just kind of jump around a lot. I don't know.
What I need to do is actually, my most embarrassing subscription I still have is I still subscribe to Nintendo Online despite the fact that I haven't opened up my Switch since July 2020. So I really need to just find a way to log on and be like, please stop giving Nintendo. Because to me it's like, oh, it's $6 a month. It's nothing. It's like, oh, I've had it for like 2 years. So that's like, it's a lot of money now that I've lost to Nintendo. And it's not like they're a struggling business or anything. So, how was your Christmas?
Like you're part of that club? That special Nintendo club?
I don't like
Nintendo. You need to... Oh.
I'm kidding. They're okay. How was your Christmas?
My Christmas, I've been hopping around having dinners with people, but the Christmas evening was just... I was serving dinner at this rich family's home, and I tell you, what a wild time that is. You get to hear rich people complain about why other people get mad that they get special treatment. Like, you know, they live in a house that costs like $1 million next to Central Park, and it basically looks like my grandparents' house.
That's funny.
I'm just like, what kind of world am I in right now? But I got a lot of money Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day, I just had a day off, so I made a roast beef stew.
Nice. Did you yourself carve the roast beast?
No. I don't know what the deal is. I've never wanted to be the person that buys, like, pre-cut things, because I kind of like cooking meat because you have to prepare it all yourself. But I just got the pre-cut beef chuck at the store.
Come on, dude.
And then
you have to carve it on Christmas Day. That's the rule.
I know, but then I'd have to buy a gigantic roast beef, and I don't actually. I'd have to buy a gigantic thing, and I don't want to do that. I just want to have beef stew. Yeah, it was nice. It turned out pretty well.
I just realized. Sorry, this is a jump back to me, but very quickly. But I do want to talk to you more about your roast beef. But it just popped in my head is you don't have Apple TV Plus, which means you haven't watched the new Christmas classic Spirited, starring Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, written by the Dear Evan Hansen guys. And the reason I say that is because it is 100% what you'd imagine Pasek and Paul's Christmas Carol would be. Since the holidays are over, can I spoil the one thing that happens in it that is, like, actually, like, it's meant to be emotional, but when it happens, it's kind of like, wait, what? Like, this is insane.
Yeah, sure.
So the Tiny Tim in it, he dies because he gets cyberbullied and he commits suicide, and it's just basically Dear Evan Hansen. Like, a couple minutes.
What?
I'm not joking. This is what happens is Ryan Reynolds plays a guy who's like, you gotta do Oppo research on your opponent to his niece for 8th grade. And he's like, look, we found this old TikTok of your opponent saying that homeless people are smelly on Christmas Eve. So just post that on Instagram and destroy his campaign. And then she does it, and then Ghost of Christmas Future shows him that by her doing that, the kid commits suicide. So it's like, what? Like,
so does Will Ferrell kill that kid?
No. Okay, so Will Ferrell is the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Oh.
And Ryan Reynolds is Scrooge.
Man, can we talk about the advertisement for Spirited? I have never known what that movie was about until recently, just kind of overhearing people talk about it being a Christmas Carol adaptation, and then I thought it was in the past. Apparently it's not.
It's got some scenes in the past. I didn't know it was written by
Pasek and Paul. No, I mean, like, the past.
No, it's got some scenes in the 1800s, yes.
I don't know anything about this film. Like,
did you listen to?
I thought it was about them ice skating because of the poster.
Well, my favorite letterbox review for Spirited is there's a critic I follow named Josh Spiegel, and he wrote like a full review for a different website, but his letterbox review is just 2 out of 5, and he's like, the thing that's haunted me most about this movie is that Ryan Reynolds is bearded on the poster but clean shaven in the movie, and I just want to know how this happened.
Wow. So how did you like that film?
I mean, I think it's fine. It's like a 3 out of 5. It's definitely one of those things where it's like the ending kind of saves it for me, but also like Patrick Page is in it. It's really hard for me to dislike something that gives Patrick Page a song, but then it's also, did you listen to our Snub Club episode on Scrooge?
Yeah.
Okay, well, because I know Caleb said this on there, so I'll just quote him. He's like, it's really weird to cast Patrick Page as the guy who just goes around, stop singing! Singing and stop it! That's annoying! Stop singing! It's like, no, I just want him to sing. Also, my other weird takeaway on it is that I would never have guessed of the 3 celebrity actors in it that Ryan Reynolds is the only one who actually can like sing decently even with autotune. Because I think Octavia Spencer and Will Ferrell still sound really bad even with their autotune. But Ryan Reynolds, I'm like, oh no, he sounds like a Disney sidekick type of thing. You know, like a genie-esque singer. Like, not a great singer, but like someone who like qualifies as, okay, I could listen to him singing like a comedy song. But the other 2, I'm just like, ooh, I do not like the voices I'm hearing right now.
I'm so baffled by that. It sounds like such a more interesting film. I mean, like, if you gave me a poster that was like Ryan Reynolds surrounded by those 3, and it's like, this is clearly a Christmas Carol, but it's, I don't know what the angle is, you know, from the guys who brought you La La Land. What the hell?
That's what's funny too, is to market it as La La Land and anything. It really is just Dear Evan Hansen does a Christmas Carol. In a way that it's kind of like honestly weird that Ben Platt isn't in it. My other take on it is I just think Will Ferrell's miscast in it, but I also think the movie only exists because Will Ferrell wants to do a musical. So it's one of those things that's like, I guess I can't complain too much because I'm pretty sure it's the only reason this exists. It also just like, you know how people talk about streaming aesthetic and like how movies on streaming like have a certain aesthetic that looks cheap?
Sure.
Spirited, it really, I'm just like, I know it got a theatrical release. I cannot imagine seeing it in a theater because it has the aesthetic of like, hey, all three of these big actors are just going to do like a TV Christmas special for you with some songs that are kind of like very over choreographed and kind of cool, but also like, it just feels like a cheap Christmas special on TV that cost $85 million because they got big actors.
Mm-hmm.
I also saw a really bad movie yesterday that had the streaming aesthetic, but we don't need to get into that. How was your roast beast? Did you have anything else with it?
No, that was my day. I don't really have much to report. I don't even have gift things to report, really. I got some nice things, but things that I wanted to get for people are either stolen or not quite materialized yet. So there's no big things there. I was gifted a very nice chef's knife. But there is actually one thing that you might be interested in, which might be news in a month, but I'll share part of it with you now. But you know the old man in Silence, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's a very big deal actor in the world named Yoshi Oida, and he's directing an opera that is going to be playing at the Japan Society in New York next month. And it's like 3 dates, so one of my Christmas things to myself was I got a ticket for that.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the tale that's going on there.
That is really cool.
So, yeah. I mean, I have no other... I didn't really do anything. I've just kind of had some dinners with people and
I know you said like the week leading up to it was going to be really busy, so I get it. Yeah, and now it's kind of the off week. So I've been my adventure has been going to thrift stores and things. I thought I was, but I actually confused that with today. Oh. Well, I remember because I sent you that ticket to Fablemans. I was like, you should go to this, and I'm sure that thing is now sold out anyway. So even if you wanted to go to it,
I mean, it's whatever. I should. You kind of have to make yourself busy when you have the time, and it's during the weekday. So
yeah, no, I get
that's
you.
Kind of what I'm up to. I don't have no big adventures.
Well,
yet.
Would you like to play the Letterboxd game?
Yeah.
All right. So, Letterboxd game. It's a game about Letterboxd. They have this feature that shows you the more than 5, the most related films to the film you just watched. The Letterboxd game is, I will give Mark 5 films. Wait, I'm going to stop and then you can cut me back in. I'm not going to add those rules until the new year. Those new rules we were discussing. We'll add those in next episode. Because now I did not prepare them at all. Because remember how you were like, let's add some new rules to make it easier. But I'm like, we can just wait for 2023 to add those new rules. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Letterboxd gives you 5 films that are, more than 5 films that are related to the film you just watched. I give Mark the first 5. He gets 2 guesses on what film I'm talking about. And then, actually, you know what would be fun? Well, and then after, okay, hold on. Then afterwards we go, first 5 films, 2 guesses. After 2 guesses, he gets the year. After that guess, he gets an additional film. After that guess, he gets one last additional film, and then he gets to guess everything. Then it's over. He lost. I was looking up very quickly to see if Avatar: The Way of Water has one yet, so I could do that as an example, because that's normally what we do when we do a movie on the podcast. But Avatar: The Way of Water is too new to have one of these yet. So, sorry.
Mm-hmm. But
did I explain it well, Ethan, for the listeners?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. All right, so this time, because it's our end of year, and we're recording this on December 27th, so if I see a 5 out of... Okay, we're doing the 3 new 5 out of 5 movies I saw this year that we haven't done in the Letterboxd game before, so no The Godfather, no all that jazz. And these are ordered from most popular to least popular. So I've only seen 3 other new movies to me this year that are 5 out of 5. And they are not 2022 movies. None of them are 2022 movies. I've seen 3... Can you guess the 3 2022 movies I give them 5 out of 5 to just off the top of your head?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
I don't think one of them was Nope.
Nope was one of them.
Okay, Nope. And then, I don't know, like, whatever, Tar? Was Tar
Nah. Okay. Tar's not even a 4.5. Tar's a 4. It's The Fabelmans.
Oh, okay.
Alright, so I'll give you all those, and we'll just play. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do this. This is order from most popular to least popular. Okay?
Yes.
Alright, your first 5 films are 500 Days of Summer, Her, Vanilla Sky, Punch Drunk Love, Annie Hall.
The movie with Jim Carrey and what's her name? Spotless Mind.
Yes, it is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Good job!
Yeah. Okay, great. Woohoo.
The next 2 you would have got would have been Shop Girl and Ruby Sparks. Right.
Great.
First time I saw it this year, I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Cool.
Yeah, good movie.
All right. What month did you watch that in?
I believe either May or April, because they were doing a series at the AMC, which I know is a very weird thing to say. A series at the AMC of focus features like 20th anniversary. I can check really quick. April 29th is when I saw it.
Okay, I just figured it was a while ago, but I was trying to think of how long.
All right, you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
All right. Blade Runner 2049, Dune, Tenet, The Time Machine, and Blade Runner.
Matrix Revolutions. I mean, whichever the new one is.
Resurrections?
Yeah.
No. That is not it, but it is in the top 25. I saw The Matrix Resurrections opening day in 2021. And that's a 4.5 to me also.
Okay.
So you get another guess.
Was it The Matrix?
I've seen The Matrix before this year. The Matrix is also in the top 25, though. So your year is 2012.
I'm like, was it... I think this came out in 2009, but I wanted to guess the Star Trek movie. Well, 2012, it would be The Wrath of Khan, which is not The Wrath of Khan. It's whatever the other name was.
You want to guess that?
No. I think I can do better. I'm just trying to think.
Technically, also, Star Trek Into Darkness came out in 2013. So,
close.
Get wrecked. Get wrecked!
2012. Was it Her?
No, it's not Her. Her is not in the top 25. The next film you get is Mortal Engines.
You know, I don't think it's this because these all seem very big budget, but was it Under the Skin?
It's not Under the Skin. Under the Skin is not in the top 25. So I'll give you your final film, then we'll do a recap. Okay? The final film is 2001 A Space Odyssey. So this is a film from 2012, and the 7 related films are Blade Runner 2049, Dune, Tenet, The Time Machine, Blade Runner, Mortal Engines, and 2001 A Space Odyssey.
And it's about space. Supposedly. I think it's about space. Whatever, I'm gonna make a bad guess. Is it Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
No, it's not Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's not a top 25.
Great.
This isn't a bonus guess, but I will say, we've talked about this on this podcast before. We just haven't used it for the Letterboxd game.
Yeah. Just trying to think. I can't think of a space movie from 2012.
Well, I'll just tell you then. And I'll tell you in a way that's going to annoy you, which is that The Matrix Resurrections and The Matrix might be in the top 25, but if they were in the top 7, I would have removed them because they are the same director of this movie, and this is Cloud Atlas.
All right.
All right. You ready for the hardest one?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
surprised.
I have to double check the directors on this one. So give me a couple.
It's pretty wild that this is going to be less like Cloud Atlas was more popular than this movie.
This one is not a very popular movie. You ready?
Yeah.
Your final round? All right. Your 5 films are Singing in the Rain, Cover Girl, On the Town, Mamma Mia, White Christmas.
This is... I don't even remember the name of it, but is it that Busby Berkeley one where it's like a party and they're like, "Hey, it's like Fruit Parade or something."
Yes, it is that movie. It's Do you have any guess on what the title? I'm just curious. Can you nail the title? Can you nail?
No, I feel strongly about Fruit Parade. I don't know what else. It just has that vibe to me. I don't know, like Holiday Inn or something.
Well, I know you know what the movie is, but that's not it. So I'm just gonna tell you what your next two would have been, and then I'll tell you what the title is. But the next two movies would have been Hairspray and Thank Your Lucky Stars. And this is a film from 1943, and it's titled The Gang's All Here. But I knew that is the movie you're talking about. I had to remove Dames, Gold Diggers of 1933 and 42nd Street from this list. Yes, I know you know what movie you're talking. You were talking about the same movie. You're right. You're good. Don't worry, Mark.
Man, it is hard to do improv and just yes and quickly when I cannot think of nouns, but I can get close.
So yeah.
Supposedly great film. I haven't finished it, but I watched a bit of it, and yeah, I know what you mean.
So yeah, Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind, Cloud Atlas, and The Gang's All Here. Along with all that jazz and The Godfather are my only 5 new old movies that have become 5 out of 5. 8 total 5 out of 5. No, sorry. 7 plus. Oh, so no, that's 10, right? No, sorry, I have it open now. That's 8 total. Yeah, 8 total movies for me that are new 5 out of 5s to me from this year. Oh, and the reason I was giving that long disclaimer about when we're recording this is because I'm seeing The Apartment on Saturday, December 31st. So I don't know. I've heard really good things. We'll see. I don't want to put the expectation of it being a 5 out of 5, but it's possible.
The Apartment is fantastic. I think you'll think The Apartment's a 5 out of 5. If not, whatever. But
that's why my disclaimer is here. Because it's this episode will be out before then, so who cares? Do you have anything for me or no? It's okay if you don't.
No. Well, we're gonna do a resolution part later in the episode, I assume, right?
What do you mean?
We're talking about New Year's plans and resolutions and things.
Oh yeah, we can do that at the end. We could also just do right now the leftover segment of us forgetting the Christmas special.
Oh, that's right. Well,
how about we transition in and not do a Pixar episode, Pixar Christmas special, but what is the Blue Christmas 30-minute Avatar Christmas special gonna be about?
Oh, yeah. Well, to talk about what we're talking about, we had an idea that we mentioned, I think, on Mike, that we were going to do during the Christmas episode. We were going to present pitches for a Pixar Christmas special that we completely forgot about doing. So, I guess, let's just make up some Avatar 30-minute Christmas special.
Obviously, the title has to be A Blue Christmas with the Soulies.
Is this yours? I don't want to joint commit to this.
And I think also it's got to be said in those 10 years before, how the opening of The Way of Water covers 12 years. It's got to be said in there sometime, and it definitely has to be about Jake being "Oh yeah, we always celebrate Christmas at home," and Terry being "No, we do not have that here. Trees are for memories."
Yeah.
I think it kind of writes itself. And that with Jake being the idiot that he is, being "No, but Christmas is so cool."
It's funny because my pitch is probably the B story in your special.
Okay.
I think that the B story needs to be about the birth of the little girl or something like that. And it needs to be about the brothers being will you love us less if we have a sibling or something like that.
And it also needs to have Sigourney Weaver's character needs to have a part where she's but I'm the daughter. She needs to have a scene that's like that. And then
we need to explore the racism of Spider.
Well, I was gonna say we could put a little mistletoe over Spider and Curie. I read a good point that's those scenes on set where they're very clearly setting up romance between them is on set that's gotta be pretty weird. On set.
Hey man, that's my favorite part of this film.
Oh no, I think she's I think she's great. We'll get into it.
No, I mean, I'm not saying it's great. I think that it's, well, this is kind of part of what I want to talk to Avatar about.
Okay.
Yeah, so B story. What's the C story?
I think it's gotta be about Norm Spellman. We have to have some human. I think actually the B story is about, like, the humans, right? So we gotta actually put Spider in that, like, or the C story. Spider and Norm are probably there, along with Delete Brow's character that I never remember the name of. Sorry, guys. You're gonna be so impressed that I remember all these Avatar character names, but then there's Delete Brow, who I will never remember the name of his character. But Norm Spellman, yeah, I gotta remember Norm Spellman. But
man, he acted the hell out of his one line.
Delete Brow or Norm
Avatar
Spellman?
2.
Which one?
Delete Brow.
Oh yeah, he was great.
Because I noticed that when he came on, he was like, I don't know how we're going to solve this problem. And that is the one line that he speaks in the film.
I just remember thinking in, like, earlier this year when I watched, it was when I rewatched Avatar, it wouldn't really hit me. But then I'd seen Drag Me to Hell for my podcast, and of course I've seen Inception. It's like, damn, this guy had, like, a really great 12 months of being in, like, Inception, Avatar, and then a Sam Raimi horror movie, and then he just did not have, like, a very high-profile movie career at all after that. Because he actually has a decent-sized role in the first Avatar, but then, yeah, in this one, all the humans are like, who cares?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a movie about, maybe the C story is about Norm being like, I'm practically Spider's dad. It's about, and maybe this is where we get the canon, like him finding out that his dad was Miles Quaritch, and he's like, this is terrible, but it's like, no, family's what you make of it. And then it's just Delete Bro and Norm Spellman would be like, hi, son.
That's pretty good.
And then the post-credit scene is not Delete Brow, Eddie Falco waking up with, like, some hot cocoa in her coffee mug with her back. And being like, I'm coming for you, Yanabiki.
Oh, man.
I think this is a good idea. And well, how do we resolve the thing with Jake and Neytiri? I think Neytiri is always, usually in these movies, I think in both of the movies, Neytiri is almost always in the right on everything. And in this case, I'd say she's right too, to be like, no, we're not going to celebrate Christmas with the kids. But, like, how does she relent and let Jake have Christmas?
What? You think that she's wrong to let him celebrate Christmas?
What if it ends with this being the first time Jake hooks his thing up to the tree?
He does that.
He doesn't.
In Avatar 1, though.
But he doesn't see anything. He just talks to Awa. He doesn't see anyone in Avatar 1.
What? Do people see each other in Avatar 2?
Yes!
I thought that was a special power that only, like, Kiri had.
We'll get into it when we talk about the movie. Yes, so
I know you've seen it, like, 8 times now.
I've seen it twice. I'm going a third time by the time this episode comes out. But I've seen it twice. But no, that's in the movie proper. It's not just Kiri's magic powers. You see both Neytiri and Jake do it. You also see Loak do it with Pakayan. I think that's how you say its name. Payakan. Who I am, by the way.
Yeah.
Very quick side note before we get into the full Avatar discussion. The joy I got from Payakan, who we will definitely talk about a lot, means that currently I always vote in this awards thing where we have a best hero and a best villain, and currently my best hero and my best villain are fully CGI creations, because Payakan is obviously the hero of the year, and Jean Jacket is obviously the villain of the year to me.
I would be hard pressed to think of better ones, but I'd be curious about what the whole roster is altogether.
Do you want to know? And then we can jump into Avatar 2. I have.
Well, let's finish the exercise and try to resolve the. I don't know. I guess he can. So whatever. He's in the tree. How do
Maybe Kiri makes like something really nice for him, and that like moves Neytiri like emotionally. You know, like Kiri somehow like. I don't know, makes like, he's like, we had all these cool lights growing up, and he's like, we are not putting up lights here, but then she like makes, like orders like the fireflies to make like a Christmas tree for him, and Neytiri is like moved by that, and then they all share presents under the tree. And then I think Loak and his brother. Yeah, I'm sorry. The older brother, that's another name I did not catch. Sorry. Those are the two names I didn't catch. The Lee Brown and the older brother. But Loak and the older brother, they do like a gift of the Magi type thing. Where they give each other the same thing. And it's like, I got you a bow. That's what I got you. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's like the box thing from the SpongeBob episode. That's not actually gift of the Magi.
I'm happy with that. I was uncomfortable if we left that unresolved. I think it's too easy to leave plots untied.
I think the actual answer is like Kiri makes a tree that looks Christmassy, and Natiri's like, all right, fine, just this once, Jake. And then Jake's like, thank you, and then they have like nice makeup sex afterwards with their hair.
Yeah. I guess, I initially was not thinking like maybe she would not want the colonizer holiday in her town. I don't know, actually, because in the world of Avatar, colonialism is pretty cool. So, like...
All right. Come on.
Bruh, these films exist. We can't pretend that, like,
Whatever. We'll see where these movies are going. I think... Whatever. We're white. I guess I can't defend the movie from criticisms like that. So... But...
I mean, it made a lot of people a lot of money. And in the end, isn't that what life is really about?
Yeah, life's about capitalism and whale juice.
Yeah.
That should be our title of the episode.
It could be about whale juice if they ended the movie there and didn't just go on about other things. All right. Now okay. So, after the Christmas special, a few years pass, and now it's time for Avatar 2. The Way of Water.
The Way of Water.
A groundbreaker.
Yeah, let's be real. Well, first off, there's the actual reason I was covering this, which is that I want to talk about Avatar The Way of Water. But then there's the how does this fit for our podcast? And this is where we'll reveal the other option we're looking at in case Mark did not get around to Avatar The Way of Water is Disenchanted. And we have a bullshit reason for Disenchanted too. Disenchanted, it was like, we're going to watch an actual Disney Plus movie to compare it to these Pixar Disney Plus releases and see how, like, it measures up in quality. Because I'm cautiously optimistic about Disenchanted too, because I know people who liked it, but I also am well aware if it's like 38% Rotten Tomatoes. So it's very possible I don't like it. But surprise, I watched like the first 20 minutes of it while I was doing other things, and I don't remember how the first gen was. This one seems kind of mean. Okay.
But like, I don't know. It has some great tunes.
Well, the Avatar The Way of Water bullshit is that this is obviously the next step forward in CGI, much like the first one was. Not like, obviously, we're not going to get Pixar making movies that look like this, because I don't think they have any desire to. But, like, it's kind of, if someone said to me, like, nah, the visual effects in Avatar 2 aren't that good, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, you cannot tell me this visually looks bad. Like, there's no reality where you can be like, looks fake. Like, this is the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life. No, you can't say that to me. So it's like,
Yeah, I agree with you. I was a little skeptical going in because I did rewatch Avatar 1, and I think that She-Hulk is about on par, and people shit on She-Hulk, but I watched that over my roommate's shoulder, and I was like, this person's green, this person's blue, there they are. I mean, I don't know how to tell if they're real.
I think Avatar looks better.
About the same.
But also I think Disney Plus's streaming quality sometimes, like, okay, I'll be honest, like, before this I told you I was like, I want to rewatch the trailers for Avatar to refresh my memory on how this movie was marketed. And I rewatch it on my computer, I'm like, nah, this looks fake on my computer. But then I see it in the movie in 3D, I'm like, oh no, those are real blue people. I actually saw also a really good tweet that was like, normal people, oh, that spider guy, he's kind of goofy. I don't know if he's racist or not. VFX people, whoa, what? How is this guy here? How is he interacting like this? What is going on? How is there a human in these scenes doing this? And I'm like, yeah, that seems pretty accurate to like how Spider's implemented with the rest of the movie. Like, it is kind of crazy, like how I'm just like, oh yeah, there's a human there and there's a Na'vi there. I'm like, wait, no, this is like probably like insane. like absolutely crazy to think about how this looks and how they did this. But Avatar, The Way of Water. It is, in fact, a groundbreaker, but that's just because I feel like that's not true. I don't think the sequels will be as groundbreaking, because, of course, there's something where it's like, we're returning to it after 13 years. So, inherently, the sequels aren't going to be, like, as, like, holy shit, the tech here. Because, we will have seen, I believe all of them are using about the same level of tech. Of course, there'll be marginal improvements made along the way, but none, like, from 2009 to 2022.
I also do think, too, like, I realize you're not talking about this movie compared to the last one as being not groundbreaking, but I found it really nice that not only is the attention to detail there, but they're pushing some sci-fi concepts a little farther, which is my favorite thing about sci-fi that I like, is if you can follow things logically through to the conclusion where they start to poke at some I think, like taboos and social things. That's
I think
really
one of my favorite things in this movie, and I have a gut feeling you're going to be like, no, Danny, I hated this, but I love Stephen Lang in this. I love what they do with the character.
Oh, no, I love him too. I think he's like, they brought him back, and that was, I'll be real with you, I'm a bit of a curmudgeon about this film, but when he woke up as an avatar, I almost was like, yes! I was like... I wanted the theater to like, what?
My favorite thing about it is like how often that plotline very much emphasizes like, I'm not Quaritch, I'm a copy of him. And I like, I love that, like, we're not like, he's like, I'm influenced with the memories of your dad. I'm not your dad. We do not share the same soul. And I'm like, yes, please. Like, this is great. Like, the fact that you're interrogating this is so cool to me.
Yeah. And that for me is like what I want from a really good movie villain. Like, he's coming in late and it's a little funky, but for me, that was a big...
I think he shows up probably in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, no, I mean late in the year.
Oh, yeah. Sure. The thing to me is that weirdly, I don't even view him, even though, he is the villain of this movie, I think, in the first movie, he's such like a... And I mean this in a good sense, as someone who likes the first movie, he is such a cartoon character in the first movie. Like, he is more cartoonish than, the Na'vi, who are cartoons, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like, nah, we're gonna take that archetype, and we're still gonna use it as the archetype, but we're gonna interrogate it in this, like, very, like, father, like, what if we give him a son? But also it's like, what if we give him a son that's not really a son because he's a clone? And I'm like, yes, give me this weird, like, sci-fi analysis of it. Yeah. But, so you're a curmudgeon on it. Should we just get our takes out of the way then? I think Avatar: The Way of Water is phenomenal. Top 5 movie of the year. I will probably see it 3 or 4 more times in theaters. Visual feast for the eyes. Can't wait to talk about the high frame rate with you. Because the high frame rate, I also think, is a crazy technical leap with this movie. That is kind of mixed, but, like, it's interesting. But I also just think, like, as a story, it's great. I think the ending makes me feel very emotional a lot of times of it. I think as a middle child, this is a movie that's designed for me. I think Loak is a character I adore. And I feel like this movie came out in 2009. This would be my favorite movie of all time. You know what I mean? Like, seeing this movie in middle school, I'd be like, yeah, Loak, that's who I want. Like, like, that's me. Like, I felt seen by James Cameron in this movie. And I also think this movie in general just is like, I don't want to say it's an improvement on the first, because I think it's kind of like, I know you're going to hate me on this because you don't like these movies. It very much feels like a Guardians 2 to me, where, like, the first movie is a much tighter experience, but the second movie is, like, going off in these crazy radical spots where I'm like, yeah, and then the ending sings so much more for me, because I'm much more invested in this story about a middle child trying to win his parents' approval than, the love story of the first movie. But.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, I think that is really, I can't disagree with any of that, because I think that's where Avatar really works for me. I think it's, for me, it's hard for me to think about it this way because I don't use the system that much, but it's, like a 3 out of 5 movie for me. I think that it is very fine, just like I thought that Avatar 1 was very fine. And I think I saw Avatar 1 a few times. Rewatching it, it's fine. there are a lot of great things that I like in Avatar 2. Like, I mean, all of the family stuff is really interesting to me. And I think that Quaritch coming back is a fantastic villain. For movies that I watch, like, really rare that I get so excited about an action movie villain like that. Oh, excuse me. And I also, as a fan of Transformers 5, I'm a big fan. If you just want to just radically change the way the movie is presented during the film as often as possible.
Let's talk about the high frame rate. Let's start with the high frame rate.
I mean, like, no joke. That's one of my favorite. I really, really liked that. I thought it was super exciting, and I thought it worked, and it was interesting to think about because I did notice it. It didn't like take me out or whatever. But I think for me, not only is it kind of like written with, it could just be, this dialogue could have been pulled from anywhere. Like,
dialogue's overrated.
No, respect your brother. Even though sometimes it's not. I don't know. Some, like, parts of it were just, like, seemed so uninspired. And I thought all of the action scenes were too long.
See, that's interesting to me, because I think the first movie is very much, people always talk about the first Avatar as having, like, one of the best third acts ever. And I always kind of tune out by the third act of the first Avatar. Even when I saw it 3 times in 3D, I'm like, yeah, this is cool. There's a couple moments that get me excited. But this, I'm, like, very invested in most of it. Mainly because I think it does a better job making me care about the characters involved in it. Like, because the fact I care about Quaritch more in this is great. Like, because I do think I have, like, a weird empathy for him in this, because it's kind of like this guy did not want to be a clone, but, like, here he is, and he's got to deal with that and do his mission. And he's got to avenge this guy he doesn't really know, because that's who he is, and it's, like, really cool. But then also it's, like, I care for, well, okay, I think the one clear flaw of Avatar The Way of Water to me, and I assume you'll agree with me on this, is that it's a 3-hour movie that somehow still managed to shortchange the best part of the first movie, which is Zoe Saldana, who does not get a lot to do in it until the third act, where when she does get stuff to do, she immediately kills it. Like, she's as good in this movie as she is in the first one. It's just that she's not in it as much. And it's just kind of a bummer, because it's like, but she's so... I actually do think also, I think Sam Worthington in this is way better than he was in the, like, his performance is, like, really, like, emotionally powerful at points, which is, like, definitely something I was not expecting to say leaving the movie, going into the movie, but then it's like, no, he's given, like, I think everyone in this movie is giving, like, a really great performance, with maybe the exception of the whalers, but even them, they're doing, like, their hammy thing they're being asked to do, but I really just want there to be revealed in the next movie that Edie Falco is, like, 800 years old and she's been drinking the whale juice. That's just a side note.
I mean, I think that would be just, I love that sci-fi can give us spectacle in such a tangible way. Sometimes I think about how horror fantasy is spectacular, but it's hard to create a sense of scale when things are, like, magical or things like that. But immediately, if you understand if someone's, like, a certain number of years old, I don't know, math is easier for me to understand.
When I first... So, okay, I want to talk about the high frame rate, and then I'll talk about the magic. Which is, I saw this twice, partially because the first time I saw it, I thought the high frame rate was messed up. Because I saw the Avatar Remastered release in Dolby, which was also in high frame rate. And it did a much different thing, where it would always, like speed up the frames in the build up to the high frame rate, which looked very smooth. And in this, it's very much like, now we're cutting back and forth between different frame rates. Fuck you. You're gonna handle it. And so initially I thought there was an issue with my screening, because there's a lot of times where I'll either cut right back to the 24 frames a second, and it will seem way slower because you just were watching something 48 frames per second. Or I feel like there's even moments in it where it slows down the frame rate, like to below 24 frames. And I really thought it was an issue with my screening, but then it's like, no, I saw it again, and it looks exactly the same. But I'm kind of like, the second time, I'm like, no, you know what, I dig it now that I know this is what it's aiming for. You know, like now that I know this isn't a glitch, now that I know it's like we're slowing down the frame rate so you can pay attention to this particular action, and then we're speeding it up. And the reason I'm saying that is because I remember at the remastered, I think I've said this before, the scene I got in the remastered scene is the first scene they're diving in the, the first scene they're diving, and that's in high frame rate 3D, and I just remember feeling an intense awe at, like, Kiri and them all swimming with fishes, and, like, the bioluminescence. And I think anytime this movie goes underwater, I'm just kind of, like, staring in, like, utter joy at what I'm seeing. Like, even, like, during the chase scenes at the end, I'm just like, but we're underwater, and it looks really cool, and I love it. Like, and I think it's a level of spectacle that, like, this is, like, me going back to, like, 2009. I think I always defend, like, I feel like the How to Train Your Dragon movies are good movies, but I don't think they're ever as magical as when I saw them for the first time in 3D. That's like, those flying scenes in 3D were incredible. In this movie, it's kind of like, you're like, yeah, you watched Avatar at home and it wasn't as great as I think you said it was still good, but to me, I'm like, it will never be as great as I remember, because to me, it's like, I just said, I'll see these 3 or 4 more times in theaters, but I'm never going to watch it again at home, because I like, the 3D is what I'm, like, here for. And I think it emotionally works as a story too, but to me, it's like, no, I want to hang out with those whales. I want to be underwater. I want to be on the shores of the Metkayina or whatever it's called. I just butchered their name, but you know what? They're fictional, so I don't feel as bad.
Oh man!
James Cameron bursts in my door.
How dare you?
Avatar: The Way of Water.
Avatar, yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that.
Wasn't me wrapping it up. That was me returning to the subject. We've got a lot more to talk about.
Well, I know, but like, what subject are you? I'm not trying to wrap it up either. I'm trying to like, where do we pivot from there?
Oh, we can do let's just run for the plot and detour on the way. How about that? I think that works.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so the movie opens and we get this montage of Jake Sully narrating.
All right.
Okay.
Let me stop you right there.
Okay.
First off,
Nicole Kidman comes out and thanks you to coming to the movie theater. That's what actually happens first.
And people did clap again. That's
because you're
nice.
At Lincoln Square.
Yeah. The movie starts with the aerial shot over the forest, which is how the end credits are in Avatar 1. And I loved that because I thought it was a nice transition, and it was also like it immediately tells you that it doesn't open with like a giant. It doesn't really open with a set piece.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say Star Wars crawl.
No. But it opens with a montage, like you're saying, and then it just keeps going, which I thought was really cool because the first time the story really stops is when we get reintroduced to Quaritch, so we don't have like a big, wow, we're back on Avatar. I mean, back on Pandora.
But what you do get is that, like, to me, a great emotional attachment to the characters. Because you get introduced to their family as their family grows up. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And, I was going to say, one moment I really like, and this is actually, to me, the thing that I think is key about these moments also is this is where, like, you start getting adjusted to the high frame rate in a way. Because this is really where it's cutting back and forth. You're like, oh my god, like, what is this movie doing? But then by the time it's, like, Jake's just playing with his kids in a circle and they're all hugging each other. You're like, oh no, this is nice. You know? You're like, I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
But I also just think, I don't know, like, the sequence is like, there's one moment in the sequence where I remember also, I wanted to mention this with the Na'vi language, we get that great moment where he's like, it was practically like speaking English. And then like the subtitles fade out and then you hear like, now the rest of the movie you're just listening to English, but then it's like, you get confused on like the scenes where Quaritch is talking to them, like how they understand what's going on, because it's established Quaritch cannot speak Na'vi well. So then it's like, but it's like,
man, talk about a movie that should have come out in 2011 or whenever, but ended up coming out in 2022. That's such a bizarre device. Like, I mean, that seemed like. That's like an ancient time movie trope.
Well, the thing is, and I think the one that we always, I think it doesn't Inglourious Bastards do it too? Oh no, Inglourious Bastards very much doesn't do it.
Inglourious Bastards is pretty is pretty fluid.
Yeah.
But they also really make a point of having certain scenes in the other language.
Oh yeah, definitely. When Quaritch is there,
but
it's
I'm sure
very
there are
much
some
like
things that are like, now we're in English.
Very clear. But then it's like, you know, there's scenes where like Spider takes them home to like the Avatar land, or like you know what I mean, like where the avatars hang out. And like Spider's just talking with them normal, and then like everyone's around them. I mean, I guess that makes sense though, because Leaf Rao and Norm Spellman definitely know Na'vi.
Yeah, I think from that point on, you're just supposed to understand whenever someone's talking. Do they get it? You know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's very like, if I want nitpicks, like, I don't know who's talking here or here, it will just become like a sentence anything. I just want, on the DVD, we need to have a Na'vi language cut. Let me listen to the whole thing with subtitles.
Give us the Apocalypto Avatar 2.
Where Stephen Lang is the only person speaking English. And then...
Anyway... The
other
montage
thing in this
continues.
Well, the other thing that's important in the montage is Kiri being introduced, I feel like. Because Kiri is, like, birthed from Grace Augustine's, which is Sigourney Weaver's character. Grace Augustine's...
dead body.
That they recovered and put in a tank for some reason, but we'll allow it.
It's so cool.
I mean, I actually, you know what? I say for some reason, like, no, it's a fully usable Avatar body. I'm sure at some point, like, they were thinking, like, yeah, let's just recover this and use it for someone else, you know?
Yeah.
Because I do think at some point in the series, it'll be a big loss if... Because, you know, we're going to get 3 more of these, at least, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I want James Cameron to keep making these movies, because otherwise he's just going to retire. Just let him keep making them. I'm going to keep enjoying them. They're probably going to keep being worth one watch for you, at least.
I think they're worth a one watch.
But anyway, I think at some point we will get someone, like, piloting an Avatar that's not theirs. Or maybe we'll even get, like, Loak going into... You know what I mean? We'll get, like, Jake being like, I gotta go on this other Avatar to do something. You know, like, a Na'vi piloting it. It will be something weird like that. That'll be really cool that will happen, I feel like, at some point. So I think that's...
Yeah.
Or even, like, maybe Kiri will get to pilot Grace's, Avatar. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my point is the Avatar is there for a reason. That's probably why they're saving it. But then it's like she gets virgin birth from the Avatar.
Which implies a Chad birth.
What?
Which implies a Chad birth.
I mean, no, I'm just implying that it's very, like, Virgin Mary type of thing with Grace.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm memeing.
Yeah.
The montage continues.
Yep, and then the Earth people return in this very high frame rate shot of the ships entering that really stands out. You know what? Yeah. I think this might not be a great idea. Let's just... now I'm like, well, we can't recap the entire plot of this 3-hour movie. I don't know, maybe this isn't the best idea. Let's just talk about the axe. Can we just talk about the axe?
Yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I am saying that for me, the movie got worse. Everything cool was really front-loaded for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the movie gets... Well, I think that's not true. I think the middle act is the best part of the movie, but I also think the third act is really good. Third act's where I cry, so... But I think the middle is the best part of the movie. But I will say, we can talk about Quaritch's introduction, because I keep talking about Edie Falco, but I haven't talked about the much-discussed moment where she drinks coffee. I mean, I guess I made a joke about it.
Why is that much discussed?
Because she drinks the coffee with the mech hand. She doesn't drink it with her own hand. She drinks it with the mech hand.
She's cool, man.
Yeah. Edie Falco is the new leader of the Pandora colony. And she's like, hey, I'm Edie Falco, and I'm here from The Sopranos. How do you do? And she's like, Quaritch, you are a clone. And Quaritch is like... Also, let's talk about the 3 jokes total in Avatar 2. One of them is when Quaritch is watching his video of him coming back, and you see the guy in the video go, ooh ah, and then the person from him goes, ooh ah. I think it's actually the other way around. I think the Avatar reincarnation goes, it's like, Quaritch on the video is like, you are a Marine, and then the guy goes, like the Avatar one goes, oorah, and then on the video, the old version of the guy goes, oorah. That's one of 3 jokes in the movie. Do you remember the other 2? They're later on. They're way later on.
No, but I do have a moment that my audience laughed at.
Is it when the love interest enters?
Oh, no.
Okay.
What's that?
Oh, it was just when they arrived at the ocean colony, and these people.
Oh well, they did laugh at that actually.
And when they're like, they make goo goo eyes at each other. My audience laughed at that. But no, the other moments that what was the moment your audience laughed at that you don't think it's a joke?
It's the one. It's maybe not the one line of subtitled whale dialogue, but it's when Black God says it was too painful.
That's the first one. I don't think that's okay. Well,
you think
that is one
that's
of my
an intentional
favorite
joke?
No, I don't think it's it. I think I did hear a couple chuckles, but I do think it's like something where like I don't know. I really like that moment. I like that the whale's talking this.
I think it's a good moment, but I think that
I get the goofiness.
I think that the way it's shot and the way it is presented are humorous.
I can see that. I like it.
It is shot like a meme.
And I do think it will become a meme. I 100%. I'll like how. Oh, we didn't talk about the one meme that's come out of this movie, which is the photo in the opening montage that looks very creepy in HFR 3D, like the Flash in 3D. You know how they take the family photo, and with Curie rolling her eyes.
Audible like groans in the theater, and like that. in a lot of moments like that. Yeah. Oh
well, Lincoln Square sounds creepy. No, the other two jokes in Avatar 2 are when Sam Worthington goes, "How'd the other guy look? Good job." When the brother beats up the friend, well, not the friend, the other person, because Loak beat him up. But then the other joke is at the end, which I think is really fun. I feel like Mark's going to give me an eye roll for, which is when the youngest girl in the family gets tied up and she goes, "I can't believe I'm cuffed to the ship again."
Oh no, I thought that was a good joke, actually. I thought that was the one joke that I liked.
I think it's a good joke. I think it's like the one time the entire movie like winks at the camera, but it's also like very legitimate that like a 7-year-old would yell at that. I think it's very funny. I think it's a good use of that actress who does not get a lot to do in this because she's a child, and she's a child not being played by a 70-year-old woman. So yeah. But
yeah.
One thing,
so
what? No, what were we gonna say? What were we gonna say?
I thought we were making a transition, but you're talking about something else.
Oh, I was gonna say, if we want to talk, because you mentioned like, these movies are very pro colonization. I don't really want to get into that, but I do want to talk about Spider. I do think we should talk about Spider extensively, because I think Spider is very. I like him. He's very interesting to me. Just in his function in the story. I think Spider... Mm-hmm. Well, Spider is the one human character. He is Miles Quaritch's son from the previous movie who was never mentioned. And he exists basically to make this movie like very concretely about fatherhood, basically, because Quaritch and Sam Worthington... I know I could say Jake Sully, but like, you know, they're both like learning to be dads. And I actually think Jake Sully is a terrible dad in this. He really is not great.
Yeah,
I think Miles Quaritch is a better dad.
Things. That's why I think the movie gets worse, because it introduces all of these interesting things. Like there's the parallel in their being fathers, and how the first movie is very like obviously it has the conflict between war people and peaceful people, air quotes, in the first movie, and then those roles are reversed in how they take care of their kids in the second movie. Yeah. And then it's there, but it all just gets lost for me in how many different shots of someone jumping or swimming can we like
look, the swimming is good
we
though.
Can't handle anything else.
He meets a whale and they swim together. You're not touched by Loak making friends with a whale?
I like that part. I just mean in general, the movie has too many shots.
I think the movie should be longer, personally. I could have been in this movie for 4 hours.
They could have had longer shots.
They could have had more Neytiri, for sure.
Yeah.
Although Neytiri, I guess, isn't really what we're arguing for right now, because we're talking about the father stuff, which... You know, actually, what I do think is very weird about this movie, and people have been like, what are you talking about, Danny? It's dumb. Why are you so hung up on this? But I think it's really weird to have Kate Winslet in this and have the role that she has. Because it's really like...
Yeah, that's literally why I'm not engaging with you right now, because I'm like...
Looking up who Kate Winslet was.
who has written about this better than I have? And immediately no one has. Honestly, fantastic work by the Avatar marketing team to make Kate Winslet hold her breath for longer than 7 minutes. So that's what you talk about when you talk about Kate Winslet in Avatar 2. To be honest,
my hope is that's for 3. My hope is that's in Avatar 3 and Kate Winslet was just confused. But my other thought was maybe like there's an extended cut of the scene where she talks to the whale.
I thought it was just like for talking to the whale. I didn't think she did it in the movie.
I mean, I think there might be a moment in the sequel if she is in 3. I think there might be a moment where like she has to infiltrate something underwater. That would make sense for that character, I feel like. But also if she's currently like pregnant. You know what the rumored title is for Avatar 3, by the way?
The Bay of Water, because it's
the
about
Seed
the baby.
Bearer. Avatar the Seed Bearer. And the next ones the ones after that are supposed to be the Tolkien Rider, which I feel like will be changed because that's just the Whale Rider. And then the last one is the Quest for Awa, which I think is the best title ever. Avatar: The Quest for Awa sounds like the spin-off video game for NES. No, actually, no. It sounds like the SNES game is just called Avatar, Super Avatar or something. And then the one that's put on PC that's just like a point-and-click adventure is Avatar: The Quest for Awa. All right, so then they go to meet well, Spider gets kidnapped by
Well, I guess there's something we missed, which is that the humans come back.
Oh yeah,
because Jake. Like, they come back because, of course, they still want the unobtainium, but Jake becomes the leader of the resistance. So the movie happens because they send new avatars, which
they're titled recombinants. They're like, that's what they're called. They're called the word they use in the movie is recombinants, because the idea is they are avatars that are ran by the memories of old dead people.
Yes, even more complicated than that. But I mean, that's what I like about it. But anyway, they send those guys, they send the recombinants to take out Jake. So he decides that to protect the forest people that he lives with, and we met in the first movie, he's going to travel and go into hiding with one of the water tribes.
And Natiri's like, no!
Yeah, well, I mean, she's pretty cool with it in a second. Like, just give
she
her a
also
second.
has a joke later on in the movie. She has a joke that doesn't really register as a joke, where Jake is like, wow, this is where we're gonna live, and she just throws her stuff on the ground, and the movie immediately cuts to the next scene. The joke is more the cut than her throwing the stuff on the ground, but like, it's beautiful. You should definitely Photoshop us into Na'vi when you put up us in the episode.
No, I don't want to be part of the problem.
You don't want us to be Na'vi?
No.
Spider's more of an issue, anyway. Oh, but we also
I think that he's a complicated muddle of things. I don't really have a problem with him as a character.
I mean, I don't think Spider is an issue as a character. I think the fact that he runs around painting himself blue is kind of weird, though. Like,
it's intriguing to see like a kid do shit like that, you know. Not that, you know. I suppose that if it were like, I think in a movie that is kind of about him growing up in these different cultures, that is an interesting and very provocative thing to explore.
I think...
Does the movie do it all the way? Nah, not really.
Well, I think the issue with the movie isn't actually with him. I think the issue is... And I think it's because... And I get this kind of because Cameron is a dude. I think Cameron is more interested in telling the story about fatherhood than just about general parenthood. Where I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities for scenes between Neytiri and Kiri. Because it's so obvious Kiri has a thing for Spider. And Neytiri very much... It's obvious from the beginning of the movie she doesn't approve of Spider, but then it really drops that thread until the third act, where I think it's really great in the third act when it finally picks it back up, but it's like, ooh, we could have had scenes throughout the whole movie where Kiri is like, sad she's missing her buddy Spider. But no, we have to have that scene where she talks to Jake instead. But if that scene was with Neytiri, you know, we'd get like Neytiri being like, bah, You don't need to care about him. Look at where we are. Look at all these handsome guys around. You know what I mean? Like, we'd had something silly like that would flesh out Neytiri more and flesh out their relationship more. And I don't want to be like, well, we need a girl scene and we need a boy scene, because I feel like that is kind of what I'm sounding like. But it's also like, I feel like it's very important. I think one of the best moments of the movie is when in the third act is when Korch has Kiri and Neytiri has Spider, and they're both begging the other person not to kill the person in their hand, and the parents are just completely ignoring them. I love that. It's nice little, but it's like Neytiri's stuff isn't really earned, even if it is like insanely well acted by Zoe Saldana, because that's just what she does in these movies. But yeah,
man, that's so Spider, if you don't know, is a kid who was born in the Avatar base, and then we later find out that he was the son of Colonel Quaritch and someone else.
But I want to point out very importantly that this is not treated like a mystery box thing. It's literally just, people complain about the dialogue in this movie. The only time I think it gets really bad is the reveal of this, which it's not technically the reveal in the writing, but it's like, Kiri, Loak, and Spider are all chilling in the Avatar base, joking about who Grace's dad might be. And then, out of nowhere, Spider just goes, well, guys, it could be worse. You could know who your dad was, and it could be mine. And they're all like, ooh, sorry, Spider. And then we cut to Quaritch. And it's like, great.
I thought that was a great moment, too.
Well, I just think it's really funny that Spider
drive that nail in deeper. It's like, yes.
But Spider just gets like so serious for a second. I don't know. He's like, no, you could have my dad. And it's like, I'm sure this has been like fleshed out between the two of you multiple times before who your dad is.
It is clunky execution of a good concept. Even a good like concept of the moment of that shot. It's, yeah.
You know, one moment people have been complaining about to me is the moment we're just hopping around, is later on where like they convince the other members of the Water Tribe, the other men in the Water Tribe, convince Loak to go fishing with them off the reef. And some people I know have been complaining about the line that like is the like thing where Loak's like, I don't know, my dad said I had to stay near us, and he's like, oh, I guess I picked the wrong brother. And a lot of people are like, ooh, that line's clunky. I'm like, nah, as someone who was a middle child, if someone tells, like, I mean, I guess it is clunky, but to me, I'm like, nah, I get that. Like, all these people in this movie talk this weird way, so I get the sentiment behind this line. So I don't feel like singling it out as like, that's clunky is silly. I like, you know, like, I think it's fine. It works in the moment to me. It gets right to the point of what it needs to do. It's a 3-hour long movie, so just get to the point. Like, it works. Let's talk about the Water Tribe a bit. Kate Winslet and Cliff Curtis. Cliff Curtis is fantastic in this movie.
He's killing it.
He's not in a lot. He's got the scene where he trains Jake, and it's great. But, like, he's really good in it.
Yeah.
And like...
I think, like, Kate Winslet's character is really interesting.
And I think Kate Winslet's doing a lot of a little, but it's also, like, very weird. Why? What do you mean, why?
Well, it's...
why is she in it? Why is the Kate Winslet? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, like,
I mean, it's just, like, this thing where we've kind of accepted that, like, non-white actors... Like, I mean, like, I should say the Na'vi are not white. And that is kind of a metaphor of the film.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because it's like,
why it's so compelling. In the original,
no, you're correct. And now that you're saying that is correct, because in the original film, the only white Na'vi we get are the Avatars. So you're correct to say, like, why is Kate Winslet white? And now that you're pointing that out to me, although I believe Jake's kids are also white, but also like they're Jake's kids, so like some of Jake's kids are white.
I mean, that's just part of it. Is like it's this even though it is Dances with Wolves, it's pretty careful about, you know, it's like this is a movie about white people and about non-white people and about colonialism, kind of.
Yeah, and I just think Kate Winslet is my issue with Kate Winslet in it has nothing to do with the race, which I'm a white guy, so apologies if I'm being like insensitive. I feel like I'm gonna get canceled just for saying it like that, but it's whatever. I'm gonna move on. My issue with Kate, it's just like, why do you get such a big actor for this role? Like, you know, like, it's very much like, huh? And especially when what you're pointing out is like, yeah, it's breaking the internal casting rules of this world. But it's also just like, Kate Winslet is like the biggest actor in this movie. Like, she's the only Oscar-winning actor in this movie, I believe, right? Although Jermaine Clement should have an Oscar by now, let's be real. And it's also Zoe Saldana probably should have an Oscar. Like, if she did, like, she should have got a special achievement Oscar for the first movie. That's my hot take. She's so great in the first movie. I think she is the reason the first movie works, is her performance. This movie has more stuff going on in it, so. But anyway, it's just weird that Kate Winslet has this nothing role, and then Cliff Curtis is given this. I mean, I love Cliff Curtis. Cliff Curtis is great in this movie, but it's like, huh? Like, in general, this movie has a woman problem outside of Kiri, I feel like. And even Kiri I want to see more of. Which, maybe we talk about Kiri, because we said we were going to talk about Kiri more. There's the most mind-blowing shot of this movie to me is when it's when the whales show up, okay? And it's after Kiri had her seizure, and Kiri walks out of the tent, and she, like, has the perfect teenager gawk, like, of how she walks. She's being dragged by her sister. And I'm just like, how did Sigourney Weaver do that? Like, I'm literally just like, how? How did this happen? How is this performance this good? Like, how is she doing this? Because I think so much about the Robert De Niro stuff in The Irishman. And I love The Irishman. I think everyone agrees that the movement in that movie is somewhat intentionally, like, old, because it's like these old people are remembering their story. But then it's also, like, in this movie,
well, I don't know who said that, but sure.
I mean, some people do that to, like, excuse the movie. I'm like, sure, whatever, I don't care. But, like, then there's this moment where Sigourney Weaver just walks out of a tent. I'm like, that's a teenager, but it's also Sigourney Weaver. What is going on? I need to see, like, the BTS of this moment. Like, my friend who I've told you about, who had that look at that wet rope meme, where, like, early on, where it's like, how did this rope get so wet? Like, in the shot of Avatar 2's trailer. In this moment, I'm like, I need to see the BTS of the scene. I need to see Sigourney Weaver doing this walk, or I need to see the body double they had to do this walk, because it has to be a human doing the walk. Like, it looks too natural. But, like, how is this so good?
Yeah, I don't know. I personally, in my deep heart, I don't think that they're just going to let actors do whatever and then not edit the shit out of everything. Because I've seen some of the BTS, and it's like, there are differences. And, you know, maybe something like that would be a pain in the ass, but also it just wouldn't, you know? I'm not saying
so
that...
real, Mark. I guess
I'm not saying that there's, like, you know, I've seen the BTS of Sigourney Weaver, and I think she does a great job. I'm just saying that, like, I just feel uncomfortable about just saying this, like... So,
are you saying...
The promotions for this movie have been all about, like, we need to preserve the performances because the actors have worked so hard. And it's all about, like, celebrating the difficulty of, I read 8 books. I read 9 books to learn how to play this character. And that's kind of been part of the advertisement for this movie. At the end, you know, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and I just think it's stupid to, if you have a bad take or something, like, you get the animators to fix it. Which is not about that moment in particular, because if that's captured well, I'm worried about assigning, like, it's this person or that person.
About that particular moment, to me, it's not even... I guess I don't know if it's a performance thing or a visual effect thing, but regardless, to me, it is it's in a weird way. I'm like, this is the biggest spectacle I've got out of this movie, is watching this 70-year-old woman play this 14-year-old girl. And I don't know if this is her or the visual effects people, but she is moving exactly like one, and it is crazy to me.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's not true.
But I also think
I think it's fuzzy.
I think, like, maybe, for Sigourney it's fuzzy, but
I look at
Zoe Saldana in this movie, and I'm just like, I don't know. To me, it just looks like Zoe Saldana's doing a performance with, like, some, you know, like some... I mean, it's CGI prosthetics, but, like, every time I've seen the BTS of the first movie, I don't really feel like they do adjust her performance. It looks like... And I know that the only stuff they put out is the promotional stuff, where it's like, they definitely, like, didn't mess with it. But, like, I look at Zoe Saldana, I look at Sam Worthington, I look at Stephen Lang in this movie. I feel like all of them, like, I see them, you know, but like I see them for their performances constantly. I don't really see. I mean, they might be finessing a bit in the action scenes, but besides that, I look at their face and how they act, and like, no, this looks exactly like how I see them act in interviews and like stuff. And it's like I don't want to take away. It's kind of like the Gone Girl discussion, right? Where like David Fincher does this thing where he spliced together takes to get his best thing digitally. And it's like, well, can you give Ben Affleck credit for that performance then? Because this take is using 6 different takes at once. But it's like, I mean, but he's still good in what I get to see of it, right? I feel like it's very comparable to that, what you're saying. Yeah, so if we can count like Rosamund Pike's performance in Gone Girl as like an Oscar-nominated performance, I don't know why I can't look at Zoe Saldana or Sam Worthington and be like, oh yeah, they're doing such great work here, you know? I guess Sam Worthington just some good work, but
wow.
I mean, I do think Sam Worthington is good at this, but yeah,
I'm not saying that it's not, and I certainly don't want to. I don't want to be part of the muddying of the waters that gives people more political power to give people awards and money because the agency of an actor is obscured by the process.
Well, I think the Oscars should add them. If they were to do this, they should do just a mocap. I don't think these performances should compete among like other actors. I think there should be a mocap category or something. Really, I've always said they should just do a combined mocap voice category. But then this year I watched this, I'm like, well, then every nominee would be from Avatar 2. Like, even as someone who likes the voice performance of this year, it's like, but then there's the Avatar performances that feel like tangible human beings, even though they're Na'vi. So,
I bet I would be surprised if it's not already there. There's got to be some kind of contract law for like if you're. I don't know if you have any insight about the thing recently where people were like trailers can be misleading because they don't have actors in them.
Yeah, I don't know. The Anna Darmus thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of because here's me talking about I'm skeptical of what promotional material feeds me. But I think that's really interesting if I kind of half understand it. But I would be surprised if there's not some kind of contract out there that says, like, if you're going to say that Ben Affleck or whoever use their name to promote your film, you have to have, like, a percentage of Ben Affleck in the final shot. Or, like, who knows what that language would even be behind the scenes saying you can or cannot adjust this point on their eyebrow, or you can do 5 points changing things, but no more than 5 or something like that. I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
I guess, but
I'm
then
surprised
it's like,
that Andy Serkis isn't nominated more than he is. And
Andy Serkis should definitely have a Special Achievement Award by now. Like, there's no question to me. Like, he should have had a Special Achievement Award for the Apes movies. He should have got a Special Achievement Award for Lord of the Rings movies. You know? Like, I get if you don't want him to compete among, like, the non-mocap performers, but, like, it's really obvious at this point that, like, the fact that he doesn't have a special award for, like, pioneering motion capture performance is crazy. Just, like, to me is, like, presuming that the sequels give her a bigger role, by the end of these movies, Zoe Saldana, if she continues giving these types of performances, she should get a special award for this role, too. Because, like, as I said, she's underused in this, but when she's used, I'm like, there's the great Zoe Saldana thing that, like, has been wasted for the last 12 years in non-Avatar movies. Like, because she's so much better in these, and it's not, like, the thing is, it's not even just, it's her voice in these movies, too. It's just, like, I feel like it's bringing emotion in roles that I don't see in other stuff that she's in.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think Loak is great. I love Pakayan, or whatever his frickin' name is.
Payakan?
Payakan. Yeah. Wales.
Yeah, think of it like an event.
Payakan.
Where they make pie at con. Yeah.
I did want to mention one other thing in the second act, which might be in the first act, but it's about Spider, which is with the high frame rate, is that moment where Spider is getting tortured, and it's like strobing you in high frame rate. I was like, yeah, give this to me. Give me this high frame rate strobe. It's great. Mm-hmm. What are you looking on your phone?
To talk about that, watching Andy Serkis BTS footage is amazing.
Yeah.
liked some of his behind the scenes stuff more than I have. Like,
you've told me that your favorite thing about The Last Jedi is watching like the Snoke behind the scenes footage.
Have I really? Because that's true, and I'm that's cool that is a real thing that happened. Yeah. Sorry, I had to make sure that he won something. Otherwise, we'd have to do something about it. But, yeah. Anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
Well, I was just going to say, like, I was still talking about the strobe sequence in HFR, that's all. The high frame rate strobing.
Yeah. I loved it.
Where they torture a kid, and it's like, great, this is so exciting. And then, like, Quaritch is like, I'll take care of him. And then Eddie Falco's like, he's not your son. Then you get this really sweet scene between Quaritch and Spider. Even though Spider's like, get away from me. You're not my dad. And he's like, yeah, I'm not. Good news. But...
it is a great scene.
We gotta talk about the second act a bit more, and then we gotta talk about the third act that you don't like. Second act... Whales. There really is not a lot to talk. I mean, it is, to me, it's like, there's no plot really in the second act, but that's great. Like, other than the Quaritch, like, you know, you cut back to Quaritch, and Quaritch is, like, moving slowly closer and closer to them, which is good, because, you know, it gives you that ticking time bomb where it's really just the Sully's hanging out. But then you get all this low act development. You get, to me, I told you I was rewatching the trailer before getting on here. I really like the title drop in this movie. I love the monologue about the Way of Water. It's very touching. It's very emotional. I made a mistake the second time I saw it, going to the bathroom during the scene where Quaritch gets his the flying thing. I forget what they're called.
I forget too.
Yeah, but then I was like, well, because, you know, I saw it once. I was like, I can miss this scene. And I come back in, the Way of Water monologue is starting. I'm like, oh, I want to get to my seat for this. And I felt really bad. I was like bumbling over these people to get to my seat for that monologue. But I think it is really, I think the thing that's unique about Avatar compared to like every other franchise now, and honestly every big franchise since 2009, is that it is aiming to get you to this like serenity level. And whether or not it achieves that or not is completely up to your buy-in into it. But I usually buy in pretty heavily into it. But it's also just like, it just feels philosophical and nice and spiritual in a way I feel like movies don't anymore. Which feels ironic because, you know, these movies are just like big CGI festivals. But it's like, but they're beautiful. And it makes me feel happy to see this guy hanging out with a whale. It makes me feel happy to see this woman talk to him about the Way of Water and how we're all connected between life and death. And I just think it's sweet. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think that it is rare in like a big budget action movie to have a big quiet moment about and to take that seriously, that spiritual moment.
And then it's
Why aren't Marvel movies more spiritual? Why couldn't Doctor Strange be about spiritualism?
I mean, the closest I think a movie gets to being about spiritualism in Marvel is moments of the first Black Panther, but it's only like moments. You know, it's not really ever fully there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's actually, because I think there's a different thread going through that movie that, like, the spiritual nature of Avatar 2 doesn't exactly...
Oh, no, yeah, it's not like that. I mean,
but I do think you can take the Killmonger portions of Black Panther 1 out, and it's like its own... That kind of stands apart from the rest of the film.
Yeah.
That, like, Martin Freeman is in.
I mean, the thing is stuff where it's like, you know... Well, I mean, yes, definitely from the Martin Freeman part of the movie. But I think stuff where it's like T'Challa talking to his dad is, like, very, like... I mean, very specifically, I think there are moments, like, the Sigourney Weaver moment of this movie where Kiri has a seizure in high frame rate. Maybe she was too busy watching Spider being tortured. I'm sorry, that probably wasn't a good joke, but...
No, I mean, I wonder about that. It's like, you know, I watch a lot of YouTube videos where that's a warning, and I know some, like, Star Wars things.
I mean, I know the theater is that it has, like, an epilepsy warning in front of Avatar 2. It's like, there are some strobing in this movie. Yeah. But I just think of that like very much like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of just on the surface that it's like, yeah, there's a person talking to a dead person. There you go, you know? But, and that's what I was going to point out to you is that at the end of the movie, Jake communes with his dead son in the tree. So yeah, they can see their ancestors in the tree when they visit.
Oh, yeah.
And
I like how it kind of implies that there's time travel going on there.
I think it's something where it's... I really like the last scene. The last scene in the movie is one of the things that makes me emotional. Because it's like... I don't want to say it's a cheap cut, because it's not a cheap cut, but it is something I've seen before where it's like... He's talking to, he's talking to his son in a memory, and then his son is suddenly his age when he died, and he's like, "Why are you crying, Dad?" And I just feel the intense emotion at that scene where he's like, "No, let me bury myself back into this memory of my son." And I'm just like, this is so nice. And then Neytiri just watches from the corner, and it's like, oh, I wish you were in this movie, Neytiri, more. But
yeah,
I want to talk about the scene that you told me you wanted to talk about, and I think it's the reason you're wearing the hat, which is the Whalers.
Oh, yeah.
And Jermaine Clement being in this movie. Yeah. Giving an accent of some kind.
Easily. Oh, man. I guess I've really gushed over Miles Quaritch's story. Gotta say, hard fourth or fifth is that Jermaine Clement is in this movie as a scientist, and he has an American accent.
He has an attempt at an American accent. He has an attempt at an American accent. Let's be very clear.
I mean, it's pretty there. He's really worked the R's, and I think sometimes you hear a little bit of the rhythm still there, but like, he's pretty on.
I gotta assume that he will be he'll be back in the upcoming ones, because I don't understand why you cast Jermaine Clement in the role he has at all. He's the scientist guy who's like, I don't like this whaling, but it pays for this, Yeah. Otherwise, he doesn't really have a role.
Yeah.
I feel bad, because I feel like people listening to this are gonna be like, nah, talk about the second act, talk about all this cool stuff that happens. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like but I feel like it speaks for itself a lot of it. It's like they dive, there's whales, it's beautiful, it's great, and then there's the Quaritch stuff, which is like plot development, which is like also really good. Like, I think about the scene where they go like to the other tribe, and they're just begging for their life, and Spider's like, I'm sorry. And then they kill they don't kill the whale, they kill like the what, like, I don't even know what kind of thing I kind of look at it like a Lapras, like the Pokemon. Like the Lapras Pokemon. And they kill one of those, and they're like, no! And I'm like, oh, that hurts, because, yeah, the Navi, they're cool. I wish I was a Navi.
Well, yeah.
Like, I'm not engaging. I refuse.
Yeah. This is kind of like Act 2, and then, like, it's so weird, because the first Avatar, I think the big midway point is when they burn the tree. That feels like the midway to me. But it's
that's in the second act. If you actually look at the timestamps on it, that's like at the beginning of the second hour of Avatar.
Is the midway when he gets on the Banshee? Which is
I think so. I think that's the midway point. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the act is so weird. I mean, the thing is with the whale. So I guess
the whale of water.
Maybe the whale of water. Something about my experience of the film, as I think reveals there, that like Act 2 is so long, and then there's kind of like an Act 2.5 while we watch a whale hunt, and then Act 3 happens.
And in the whale hunt, we get the exposition about these whale juice this whale juice gives you infinite life, and it's like, okay. Yeah, we just move right on. It's like, I guess that's set up for another one. I hope that will come back in 3 or 4, because otherwise it's like, what? Like, how is this relevant?
Oh my god! I mean, I love that.
I assume everything that's like a throwaway moment, it will be relevant down the road.
What? Yes. This is everything I love about sci-fi. We're getting into the big questions here. So that part was great. Yeah, whale juice.
And we get the moment where Loak bonds with say the name because I'm gonna butcher it again.
Payakan.
And we get like a flashback from the whale's point of view in HFR 3D, but also attempted to look like a whale's eye. I'll be very honest. I love the movie. I've seen it twice. I don't really know what happens in that scene, and I just get the next scene where Loak's like, he was just trying to protect them. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well, it's because the movie clearly knows that it has to explain whaling, but like when that happens, it's very like unclear. And I mean, even when he says what happened, which is that Payakan like rallied the whales to try and stop the whalers, like how on earth would you portray that? Like, you should have just said it.
I mean, I really want the extended cut where we get like a 20-minute sequence of just the whales moaning to each other, and they go like, "Let's go!" And then they all die besides Payakan. I'm never going to pronounce his name. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's basic. That's basically it. But real missed up. You know, maybe this is like the fan short. Special. This is the Christmas special. Payakan's Revenge, and it is all subtitled whale talk, and they really need to lean in to like the complexity of what they can make these whales say to each other.
Oh, I love the whales. They're so great. Like, we keep saying that, but like the whales in this movie, I'm just like, they're beautiful. I love them.
Yeah.
All right, so we get this big whaling sequence, and that's what leads us into the third act. Because they kill, I think they call it the Soul Sister, right? Or something like that, or my Spirit Sister.
I think it's Spirit Sister.
Kate Winslet's character. And we're also told that these whalers go explicitly after, like, the ones with new babies. Which makes us all really sad, because Kate Winslet waited to have another baby until her whale friend could have a baby. And now her whale friend's baby is dead, and so is the whale. R.I.P. Brendan Fraser. It'd be really awkward if Brendan Fraser dies between now and the time this podcast comes out.
He's on a comeback. He'll be fine.
It's true. He's got to be in one of these now. He's got to voice the whale in like a dream sequence. Very, very lazy joke of mine. I'm sure other people have made that joke multiple times since this movie came out. Anyway,
this is like when those two Snow White movies came out at the same time.
Yeah, The Whale and The Whale. I haven't seen The Whale yet, but I presume The Way of Water is a better film.
And it would be another, like, Alien versus Predator. They do a crossover with
Fraser versus Pike. So
need funding for Avatar 3.
When this all happens, Jake's like, you need to warn your whales that this, and he like pulls up like the harpoon marker thingy. This is gonna kill your friends. So it's like an inverse of the first movie. It goes like, this is our land. He's like, no, this isn't our land. Let's run away.
Yeah.
Which is really to point out that Jake Sully is like I think this movie has protagonist is Loak. Like, I think that's pretty clear. He's the one who's driving the plot most of the time, other than Quaritch. Even though, like, obviously Jake is given, like, the big protagonist fight at the end. I don't think Jake is really doing anything other than uprooting his family, and then once he does it, the focus is more on the kids.
Yeah.
And even before he uproots the family, the focus is more on the kids. Which I think is fine. I think the kids are more interesting than he is. But
I think he's interesting. I just think he's an interesting side character. I think it's really interesting that he becomes a military dad.
I think so,
I don't know. I'm still on how cool that what a cool escalation of development of that is. But
I think in general, I think Jake's arc in this movie is very interesting, and I hope that the next movie continues where I think it's going, because I think the way this movie ends is kind of like him going like, I learned the lesson, but I also still think that a father's role is to protect. And I'm like, I guess you didn't really learn your lesson then, because that's not what this movie taught you. I don't want to get to, that's in the third act. I want to talk about something. There's a very big moment in the third act I want to talk about. But anyway, so these whales, Jake tells them all to run away. The water people don't really want to do it, but then Loak goes to warn his friend Papayakin, but Papayakin has already been marked for dead by the whalers, which launches us into the third act, because obviously Loak isn't going to leave his whale friend to die. And they do all work together to save the whale. We skipped this entire thing about the whale being an outcast, but
the whale's an outcast because he tried to take some lives, and the whales are like, no, not even in self-defense can we kill other things.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but
kind of dope, yeah. Like, I got to support the whales on this, like, hard line.
Another really interesting concept, which is kind of, like, buried under the weight of...
water.
The film.
The weight of water. But, so they save Papayakin, but then we get this really cool... Oh, and they got, like, this comm system that they use constantly for... Which I guess I don't need to be like, where did they get this tech from? Because they literally got it from, you know, the Avatar people, the science people. We also have this really nice scene... Sorry, we skipped over this in the second act. We have this scene where Kiri gets a seizure, which isn't nice, but the scene I like about that is, like, Norm Spellman and Dilip Rao. And this is how... Jumping back, this is how Quaritch finds out where they are, because they're easily able to...
his line.
Yeah, Dilip Rao gets his line, but we get the one moment Kate Winslet has in the movie besides crying about her whale friend I like, where she screams at everyone, I want to take care of your daughter, basically. And then Zoe Saldana's like, get out! And sure enough, they do like an acupuncture thing and it works out, because the Na'vi are cool and they can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Na'vi are really cool.
Yeah, we love them. They're great. But anyway, back to the third act. All the troops are rallied. We get this moment where Cliff Curtis is like, Kate Winslet, don't come with us, you're pregnant. And Kate Winslet's like, I ride! And then she runs to her, like, thing. And we get this really great shot of all of them, like, going on their, like, dragonfly thingies towards the whale. Meanwhile, Kayakin is freed, but now all the kids are being chased in the water. And it's this big, escalating third act action set piece that lasts about 40 minutes. And for the first 10 minutes of it, I was like, is this the third act? And then, like, by the time the whale was jumping on the ship, I was like, this is the third act. And that's like 10 minutes.
I have a complaint. I think that should have been one shot. And that is... It happens in other points in the film, but really, I feel like that should have been one, like, long... That should have been the long take, is when the whale jumps on the ship.
I don't think James Cameron does the long take, though.
Yeah.
I think that's not his style. I think the idea is, what is going to be the coolest 3D image I'm going to give you, and then I'm going to cut around to give it to you from different angles, and it's going to look cool.
Yeah, well, they did it during the credits. It's kind of true. Like that shot of the whale is what I remember thinking of that. I was like, oh, this is what I wanted during... I wanted to have, like, the cheer moment. And
I mean, you get the cheer moment.
Sure.
To me, I get the cheer moment later on, where, because I presume Jermaine Clement wins, but the other whaler gets the best death in the movie easily, where he dies by his arm being torn off and thrown towards you. Because the thing I also want to point out about so his arm gets torn off, but every shot preceding it for about a solid 20 seconds is like the low frame rate, but then as soon as his arm gets thrown off, it's high frame rate, and it goes right towards the camera, and I'm like, this is great! I love 3D! It's fantastic. Show me this arm flying towards me. It's great. But then we get the scene we talked about earlier, basically, where, what's going on back and forth is the older brother saves Loak, but then Loak's like, we gotta save Spider. This is our only chance. And the older brother's like, all right, we'll go do that. And then the older brother, they all work together to save Spider, but on their way out, the older brother gets shot and starts bleeding out and dying. And it's really sad, but not really, because we're not really attached to the older brother, but I'm attached to Natiri's reaction to... You get what I mean? Like, that's the thing to me, is like, I might not be attached to this brother, but I feel both Sam Worthington and... I feel both Jake and Natiri's grief in this moment, so it still works. That's what I mean, like, Jake is really good at, like... Not when I actually say Sam Worthington, but I say Jake. But Sam Worthington is really good in this, in the sense that, like, if he was not like near Natiri's level in that scene doesn't really work. And then he also says like this really cruel thing to, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he like says to Locke, he's like, this is your fault. How dare you not be looking out for your, like, and it's just like this whole rough thing. He's like, I don't want you helping with me because you're just gonna mess it up again. and it like really hurts, and it's like really sad. And then we get this really badass sequence of just Neytiri and Jake attacking the thing. Pause on the third act. I need to jump back to the whaling scene because I forgot to say my one actual complaint about the movie.
Aha!
May I?
We are equals.
The whaling
not
scene.
So different, you and I. Okay.
The whaling scene. The whale gets killed. The soul sister of Kate Winslet. What music do we hear? The exact same track of when the tree falls in the first Avatar movie. It is the exact same music, just reused. It's super distracting if you've rewatched the first Avatar in the last year. And anytime someone watches all these movies in a row, it's going to be distracting. I think this, and it's because James Horner's dead. Obviously, I understand James Horner was a great talent and he's lost, and that's why this guy they got was his protege, so I don't think he wants to, like, stray from the themes too much. But I'm just like, man, if all 5 of these movies are going to have the same score, I would like to have someone, like, bring something new to it. And I do think there are moments where this sounds really good, but for the most part, it just kind of is like, I was expecting more. Especially at that moment where it's like, it should be this big emotional moment, and instead I'm like, why are they playing the same music when the tree falls?
Mm-hmm.
That's my one complaint about the movie. I think the score is bad.
Did they not, like, add, like, do-do-do-do-do-do? Because they're underwater?
I think there's some new underwater themes, but it's like, very specifically, there are moments where it just plays the exact same motif from the first movie when it's, like, trying to hit the same emotion. And I'm just like, lame. Give me something new, you know? Okay, so back to the third act.
Act 3.
Yeah, Metkayina. Oh, we're already past that. Metkayina has kind of pieced out at this point. But during this big...
He is written out of the film.
Well, no, he comes back. The people who are written out of the film is the other tribe. They just kind of disappear after they fight a little bit. But I don't really care that much. Who cares? Like, whatever. I'm not here to watch them fight. It's not their fight. They're here to save a whale. They save the whale. They're like, all right, bye. Like, the Soys can figure out this stuff on their own. Which, to be fair, they do. So yeah, Jake, Neytiri attack the ship because Kiri was, and the younger sister, whose name is, I have it open now, actually. Tuck. Kiri and Tuck were retaken. We get this really James Cameron line where someone grabs Kiri and goes, I got you, Buttercup. And she goes, back off, perv. And it's like the most James Cameron moment of the entire movie, which I feel like is saying a lot, but I also think it's accurate. I think that is the most James Cameron line of dialogue we ever get in this movie. But then they get tied up and we get that joke I mentioned earlier where it's like, I can't believe I'm cuffed again to the ship. And anyway, so like Jake and Neytiri get this awesome scene where Neytiri is being really, like, you know, badass. And Jake's also being kind of cool. But Jake, you know, Jake just uses a gun. And Neytiri, like, uses her staff and her bow, and it's always really cool. And actually, one that stuck to me as really sad is at the end of this sequence, she gets her bow broken. And earlier on in the movie, they reestablished that it's, like, the last thing her father gave to her. So when her bow breaks, I'm kind of like, dang, she's really losing it all. She lost her son, now she lost her dad's bow. Which, like, I think really sets up the moment we talked about earlier briefly where she grabs Spider after Quaritch grabs Kiri. And it's, like, this intensely acted scene by all 4 of them. And it's, like, great. It's fantastic. Love it. I guess Spider's probably the weakest of the 4, but also he's the only one who's an actual kid in that scene, so I guess we can forgive the actor a little bit. I'm not going to attack this 16-year-old guy for doing his best. And even he's doing good. He's still doing good.
That's a great scene. That's a great moment. I do have the same issue of, like, we kind of forgot about that. That's kind of an Act 1 thread that we kind of forgot about.
Yeah, but we said that earlier. It's like the second act should definitely, like, have more Neytiri stuff that sets it up more, because obviously Kiri is depressed most of the movie. That, like, her thinly veiled love interest is no longer there. You know, like, very, but then Quaritch is like, all right, I'll let go Kiri, and that happens. But then they all try to escape, and Jake's like, he's like, I'm never gonna stop until I kill you, Jake. And Jake's like, let's finish this now then. And then the HFR kicks back in, and they're about to get in a fight while the Solies try to swim away, but then of course the oil tanker around them sets on fire. And then we get this great sequence where it becomes Titanic for 20 minutes. Because they all get too deep into the wreck of the water. Of the ship. And actually one of the coolest moments to me in that scene is at the very beginning of it. When the youngest daughter gets sucked down the crevice and it's actually really terrifying for a second. And you're like, what are they going to do? And of course, what?
It's so fast.
Yeah, and then what are they going to do? And then Tyria, of course, dives right in after her daughter. And it's like, yeah! But then it's like, we get this really cool scene where it's like, you know, the ship is sinking, so the gravity is shifting all around them in a way. And it just looks really cool. And it's, of course, also, all this is in 3D. So it's really good. And then, like, you know, Quaritch, they fight a bit. I think Jake wins fair and square, right? And he knocks out Quaritch, and Quaritch sinks to the bottom. Or is it a cheap shot? I can't remember. I don't think it really matters.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember if it was fair or not.
Yeah, I guess it was, but Quaritch gets knocked out, which leaves Spider to save him to get Spider out of the third act. And I see some people on Twitter being like, why did Spider save him? That's so dumb. They're just setting it up for, I'm like, no, I think their relationship is developed enough for me to buy that Spider would save him. And it'd be really weird if Spider abandoned him. And I think also puts Quaritch in this weird place to be like, oh, my son, you know, in the next one. Again, what they were Quaritch in this movie is great. And then we get to the scene that makes me cry, which is Loak goes in after Jake to try to find Jake. It's Jake and Spider. Loak and Spider go in together, and Spider, you know, sees Quaritch. They split up, and Loak finds Jake. And Jake's like, I don't know if I can make it, man. I really don't know how to swim. I can't dive this well. And then Loak reprises the Way of Water monologue to him. And it's like, you just gotta, like, breathe from here. And it becomes this beautiful moment where Kiri does the same thing and tracks down Neytiri. And Tuck using her, like, AWA powers. And we get the beautiful bioluminescence of her leading their way out with the, like, breathing apparatus for Neytiri. And there's this moment where it's just like, you realize what the whole movie was kind of about, at least in James Cameron's eyes, was parents learning from their children. That's what I think the whole movie's about. That's what I think, at least what he's aiming for. And you get this, like, thing where it's like, all the kids are saved by what their parents were dismissive of. Because Loak, you know, is always the one that Jake's like, why can't you be like your brother? And then Loak leads his way out. And just when it looks like Jake's about to drown, who comes to save them but Papaikin, who is only there because Loak befriended him against Jake's wishes. And then, of course, when they submerge from the water, you hear Jake just go to Loak. He's like, Loak, I see you. And it's like this immensely powerful moment where, yes, it's like the Avatar line, but it's also like this moment where, like, the father sees the son for the first time as his own individual, not as, oh, that's the younger of my kids. Where he actually sees Loak for all he is. And I just find it so emotionally powerful. Especially also, again, during that whole escape, you hear Loak's monologue of doing the Way of Water thing, where it's like, the Way of Water is, it's there at the beginning of your life and there at the end of your life. And it's like, I just find it emotionally, and of course also, like, in the 3D with the bioluminescence, and then with the whale, like, you know, popping up, it's just like, I just find it an emotionally overwhelming moment to me. I find it truly a beautiful, like, that's where I'm like, this movie is beautiful and works to me on an emotional level where it's like, yes, there are, like, it's not a 5 out of 5 movie. I already said that. Like, to me, it's not as tight as the first one. I think there are moments where the characters don't necessarily really work well, and it's the juggling so much stuff that inherently some stuff I'm gonna feel like, again, with Neytiri, I wish there was more of her. But it's also just, to me, it's like, it still feels emotionally so powerful at the end in this big way that does not feel forced to me at all. I feel like the entire movie was leading to that moment. And I'm like, yes, give this to me. Like, this feels so powerful. And the only thing I wish is, I wish that we'd let it lay a bit more on the, because I remember it's like, he's like, Loak, I see you. And then immediately, like, Neytiri comes in to hug them all, and Kiri come in to hug them all. I'm like, oh, I wish we could just stay on this moment a bit with just the two of them more before we have to have everyone group hug. But I love it. It gives me so emotionally, because it's like, this is where we get to the looking for the ocean part of Pixar journey. I said, all right, I'm gonna drink some water before I get into The Way of Water.
The Way of Water.
I remember I left the movie and I'm like, the first time I saw it, I was like, ooh, I had a headache in the back, how or this. So I don't know how much I liked it or not, but I will say that as a middle child, this movie really resonated with me. Is that I feel like you watch this movie, I feel like it's really, and I think it's obvious, like, you know, because Cameron always plays in archetypes. Loak is the middle child, even if he is the second born of 4 kids. Or third born of 4. I don't know where Kiri really falls, but you know what I mean. He's the middle child for all intents and purposes of the story. Because obviously Tuck is the baby, so everyone likes her. Kiri's got her weird thing going on with Awa that Jake's just concerned about. And then obviously the oldest kid is the oldest kid, who Jake is very, like, focused on. So, you know, we get this moment at the end where I think, because again, this isn't really, like, about my dad, but there are moments in my life, you know, where, you know, you're the middle kid, and it's like, when I was growing up, both my brothers, they did debate, I did speech. I've been the more artistically driven person in my family, and my brothers are the people who, you know, go off and do actuary stuff or engineering stuff, whereas I'm at a dead-end job at, like, a daycare center trying to get trying to write a play, but only getting one out once in 4 years. And this isn't self-loafing out with Danny. This is me just laying out, like, the way I see it. Where it's like, you know, when my dad went to my play this year, and, you know, afterwards, he was like, Danny, that was, like, really great, and I'm really glad you worked on it. That meant so much to me. Because it's like, you know, it's not like I'm trying to get approval from my parents. I don't think Loak is trying to get approval. Loak's just trying to save his dad in that moment. He's not trying to, like, make up for killing his brother, because he doesn't even, like, it was an accident. He was like, we both chose to save Spider. But in that moment where he's like, I see you, it's like all those intense feelings of when, you know, your parents just look at you and are proud of you for something you've done that isn't, because my dad is an editor when he was working, and neither of my parents, I say, are very artistically minded. But then when he says, you know, when he's like, no, that was, like, good, and there was something where my parents didn't really like they thought my Shamrock, it was like, my Shamrock Shake play, they're like, it was weird, but I like the effort you put in this. But with my new play, they were like, no, that was, like, really great, and you really gave something to this community by writing it for them. I'm like, well, they're giving me some money too, but you know what I mean? Like, anyway, all this to say is, like, when that particular moment happens, and it is very much framed like, only Loak could save Jake in this moment. That, to me, is the movie. That is why this movie resonates with me, probably more than the first movie, even though I think the first one is a tighter film. That is why I will keep revisiting this movie. Not for the visuals, but because of the emotional ecstasy I get at that sequence. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You were like, I thought this was a bonus episode. I didn't know we were going to get into Danny's...
Well, no, I mean, we usually do if we have a bonus episode.
It's true. You're like,
no, that's good stuff. I mean, I can't really speak because I do not like the movie more and more as it goes on, especially. And at that point for me is like, this is the end. So they're doing the monologue, and that was my thought during it. I have nothing to add to your beautiful experience, which hearing you talk about that, that is true. And I found that quite touching. Much more than I did Avatar 2.
Well, The Way of Water connects us all, Mark. And then we get a nice little epilogue scene where he goes, your son is buried with us now. You're water people now. And then we get that moment where, like, we get the monologue from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, you can collect every race.
You know.
Anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was gonna say we get the monologue people at the beginning. We get the monologue at the beginning of the movie where he go like, "Oh my god, that was like so long ago we had this monologue. Not like the Way of Water monologue where it's a callback, but like when Jake starts giving the monologue he gives at the beginning of the movie, you're like, oh my god, what? We've been here for 3 hours. And you're like, yeah, I've been here for 3 hours, that checks out. And then you get the nice little moment where Jake's like meeting with his son, and then you get like, now I'm gonna actually stop the humans. It's like, alright, well we'll be back here in 2 years. Like, and then the Weeknd starts singing.
Yeah, he does. Man, he's really up in the world there. It's fun.
First 50 Shades of Grey, now Avatar: The Way of Water.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that they don't, like, write an original song exactly. They just put lyrics over the music from the movie. I think it still qualifies as an original song, though, type of thing. Oh, it does, but I just mean, I feel like...
Did you ever see Maverick? Top Gun Maverick?
No. Does it have a song?
It has the Lady Gaga song at the end of it, which is utilized in the score throughout, so that way when the song finally starts playing, you're like, what? This is just the score. And then it's like, oh wait, but they like probably wrote it around the same time.
Like,
you know?
No, it's the Lady Gaga song.
What's funny is, the Lady Gaga song is not as big a hit as the other song.
Do you mean the original Top Gun Maverick soundtrack?
No, there's the other song from Top Gun Maverick where it's One Republic, and it's used during the volleyball scene. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Mark, we have another hour to go if we want to catch up with the runtime of Avatar: The Way of Water. I'm joking.
Well, I guess it's time to fight each other for 40 minutes. And
this was a good movie.
Oh man, no, you're wrong. I don't actually think you're wrong. It's not a movie that appeals to me. And for everything I liked about it,
you'll still be back here in 2 years.
Yeah, I will. Well, that's how it's made, right? That's kind of my feeling about all these films, is that this isn't a new thought, but why does something need to be popular, you know? Why does it need to be, like, so palatable that everyone can enjoy it?
I mean, in this case, it's because Cameron needs the green light for 4 and 5. So hopefully 4 and 5 go nuts once he gets that green light.
Yeah.
But also, I think James Cameron in general is a populist filmmaker. Like, have you ever made a movie that's, like, intentionally trying to alienate audiences? I don't think so. You know, we were going to say, I texted you that before you saw this. Like, are we going to talk about, like, your Cameron thought in general? Like, do you like Terminator 2?
Well, I actually was looking back at the filmography of James Cameron, and I think it's pretty much a mixed bag. Basically, every movie of his, I really like 1 or 2 parts of them, and then the rest I just don't like at all. Like, in Terminator 2, it's the chase scene with the truck. And with Titanic, it's when the boat splits. And also, I really like the sex scene in Titanic. It's like,
you should watch Top Gun Maverick for the sex scene.
Why? What happens? Is it like in a plane, but it's foggy? But
the thing that reminded. I remember afterwards talking to Julius about it, and we're like, kind of reminded us of the room sex scene, but like being in the movie. But it's like, it's just very poorly edited and very like, let's try to make this PG-13, but also let's try to make Tom Cruise sexy even though he is not. It's really bad. The sex scene, more people need to be talking about the Top Gun Maverick sex scene. It's really bad.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that, like, none of these films are evil. It's just, I just don't connect with them. And for this movie in particular, I was like, this movie is too long. That's what puts this on the lower rung of Cameron things for me. I think my top one might be Aliens.
My top one is Titanic. Then Terminator 2.
Yeah.
To me, give me these long Cameron movies.
Well, I like Titanic too. I remember like watching Titanic all the way through and thinking like, oh my gosh, yeah. But then I put it on the other day and I was like, it's kind of the same thing where his movies just don't have a lot of forward momentum for me. it, and I do not know how to explain this. I just do not get a lot of, like, the question from one scene to the next of, like, what will happen does not exist for me with James Cameron movies. Like, the spectacle is either there or it isn't. I'm never, like, dragged along by the tension. It is just, it's either on or off for me. And I do not know how to break that apart.
As I said, what I think is interesting about Avatar 2, and what I just think it's a spectacle that the only comparison I can give it to is the How to Train Your Dragon movies, you know? Where it's like, the spectacle is we're just chilling with these people in the ocean for like an hour. And it's really cool, and it's vibing, and then it gets this crazy action at the end that feels very emotionally motivated. Because all the setup, really, more of the setup it did with Quaritch than with the other characters. Well, what stuff they done with Quaritch and with Loak is really what drives the third act to me.
Mm.
So it's like, yeah, it's good. This is good stuff. But then it's like, people like you are like, but I just wanted, the action's bad. Go back to the first act.
Well, no, I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, maybe I just don't know screenwriting deeply enough to get into this, but that's basically it, is like in the first act, if you give me a new idea every few seconds, I'm just hanging out, chilling. But you could turn off a James Cameron movie at any time, and I will not feel like I have missed something by, like, not continuing watching.
One thought I did have with this, even though I've kind of grown off it on my first time I watched it, but then the second time I watched it, I was like, I don't think it's that big of an issue, is that I definitely felt like a part one. Particularly the stuff with Kiri is just like, oh, she gets seizures when she attaches to the tree. Anyway, that would be relevant down the road, you know? Mm-hmm. Or like the whale juice stuff. But then it's like, I read that, initially this was supposed to be like Avatar 2, 3, and 4. And then when they were writing the sequel for 2, it was like, we have to split this into 2 just because we're covering so much ground in catching up audiences to where Jake... Because, in an ideal world, the movie they would like to do is start when they get to the Water Tribe. But they have so much catching up to do because we've been gone for so long. And so really, the big fight we get at the end, probably initially their plan was, this is going to be the end of Act 2, and this will be what drives Jake to go out for revenge. But then it's like, no, we got to make this longer so that way we can just split the movie in 2 and make Avatar 3 be like the conclusion to this story. Because that's what Cameron has said, is like, Avatar 3 would conclude the story if Avatar 2 bombed that bad. I still think we'll get 4 and 5, because honestly, the thing is like, I'll be honest, like, these are designed not necessarily to sell toys, but to sell a theme park. And to me, James Cameron offers to make you an Avatar movie. If I'm the guys at Disney, I'm going to keep saying, yeah, sure, like, especially after this, when they've already invested in all the new tech, Like, there's going to be no really big radical leaps forward after what we've got in this. So, knock on wood, James Cameron will probably prove me wrong. But at this point, it's like no, you should just make 4 and 5. What?
Oh, I was just imagining, now we're going to space.
I mean, I'm sure at some point we will go to space. That's where A was. That's what the quest for A was, going to space, hopefully. But my point is, for 4 and 5, I think, it just, like, why wouldn't you make these movies to keep your theme park relevant? You spent so much money on that Avatar thing in Animal Kingdom. Just keep me, like, they're gonna keep wanting to make these, I feel like, regardless, because that park is so popular, and it just makes, and also these movies make so much overseas. China is disappointing now because of a COVID surge. I'm sure Avatar 3 will be so much bigger in China when it comes out. And again, most of the money went to this one, so hopefully we get 4 and 5. I'd be surprised if we don't. And again, Cameron has kind of said he just wants to only make Avatar movies, or he'll just, just hang out in the ocean the rest of his life, because he likes doing that too. He's like, that guy ever let me make movies, I'll just hang out in the ocean. And I'm like, yeah, like, I'd like movies. Like, I guess that's my most problematic take, is that I like James Cameron.
That's not the most problematic thing in the world. Yeah. He's a complicated human being. His script for Aliens was It's not actually his script for Aliens. What am I talking about? He didn't write this. Did he write the script for Aliens?
Well, I'm on his wiki. He wrote it. He co-wrote it. It was from a story, though, from David Giller and, of course, Walter Hill. But he wrote it. He was the final person to get screenwriting credit.
Okay. Well, because I remember... Yeah, I remember, and you can just pull up the PDF right there. This was the first thing in film school that we were given as a sample script.
Aliens?
To read.
I didn't realize that.
Well, that I was given it anyway. I don't know. You might have had a different track, because this was... Because before we had that one class together, I took a short film writing class, and the TA that taught it was really into fantasy and sci-fi. So we got a lot of that, and all of my thoughts are true. I mean, all of my thoughts are still the same, and looking back even then, I think, like, you know, I get, it's like, this is a well-made script because it pleases the most amount of people. That's what makes it well-made. And it just has no rough edges.
I mean, but I think...
archetypal in ways, but, like...
But then you get, like, stuff in this where it's like, the whales talk, you know? Like...
Well, of course the whales talk.
You say that, but none of the animals in the first one get subtitles.
Well, that's because whales are, like, in the real world, whales are more intelligent, and I think that's what Cameron is saying here, is that, like, these whales are smart. Which is actually another... I think that is my big, like... why is Avatar about race problem with this movie, is that it makes us care about fake whales when there are real whales out in the world.
I mean, like, I did see a good point that the tragedy of, like, Avatar is, like, the spectacle is you get to go to these beautiful digital oceans, but because our own coral reefs are dying, and no one would ever shoot a movie there because it would just kill it more. Yeah. And it's like, it is a bummer, but it's also like, I mean, Cameron has said also he's only making these movies because he's like, I don't really think they do too much work, but, like, I can make these as environmentally friendly as I want to. I can put as many political messages as I want to it. No one can stop me. I think I'm making the world a better place by making these movies, because the only other option is for me to keep deep sea diving, because what else? No one else is going to listen to me on anything, because I'm just James Cameron. And I'm like, yeah, like, that all checks out. Like,
that's a fair take. But, like, I don't know. I just, you know, I mean, I guess if it were me, it's like, that's not what I would do. But if he's James Cameron, he's not me. So that's kind of my gripe with James Cameron, is that he's not me.
Well,
so
what would your Avatar 2 have been titled?
My Avatar 2? My Avatar 2 would have been titled Avatar 2: The Way of Brendan Fraser. And it's about Brendan Fraser, and he just, like, narrates to you about the history of sea travel and the Pacific Ocean, and, like, how Australia was found, and just, like, let's have Brendan Fraser narrate like a Ken Burns documentary about...
I mean, did you hear who's in the third one, apparently?
Who?
Well, first, Michelle Yeoh's been confirmed to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
But Vin Diesel is either in 3 or 4. No one knows what he's playing yet. Hopefully an Avi.
Great. Vin he's
I want to see Vin Diesel as an Avi. He's the seed bearer.
He's going to be the voice of Awa.
Also, David Thewlis is the next one in some role.
Oh, man.
Did you also hear about what originally Avatar 2 was supposed to be? It was going to be called Avatar: The High Ground. And there's now a comic book that covers it. So it was going to be set... You know how it has that 1-year time jump? Avatar: The High Ground is set during that 1-year time jump. And it's like a comic that's like, this was the original script for the sequel. It includes the Na'vis, like, traveling, I think, to a satellite. Because the one thing Cameron has said about it is like, yeah, I was going to have, like, this scene where they bow and arrow fight in zero gravity. And it's like, ooh. Yeah, that would have been interesting. But...
Maybe they'll, I don't know, revisit that at some point.
He said it didn't work because, it wasn't spiritual enough.
Mm-hmm.
which kind of makes sense. I don't really think Avatar about the spirituality is that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But all right,
that's kind of just to kind of dig in about my jokey Brendan Fraser making a documentary thing. My big thing about all of James Cameron's movies that I can't get away from is how they're made. Like, they're all blockbusters. They're like gigantic sucks of money, and because it's not like archetypes. Just, I firmly am on the side of, like, I don't think archetypes are like as natural and holy as people say. I feel like there's a lot of social construction, so that he uses archetypes in his films. I think there is, clearly some kind of, like, cultural sameness that makes these movies successful, but it's full of a lot of assumptions about people and the way they interact, which is very frustrating to me.
I think it's just where you get with Cameron. To me, it doesn't bother me, but it's just, it's different structure, different folks type of thing. It's something where it's like, I see where you're coming from. Not a problem for me. It's like, and it's also just like, compared to everyone else who's getting this type of money to make, like, blockbusters, like, I prefer that James Cameron's getting his archetypical movies where these characters have cliche relationships. Because you know what? At least they have relationships. There's been... Okay, that's not true. The end of Inception makes me feel things, too. But, like, usually, like Christopher Nolan, like, his movies... There's no, like, feeling between the characters normally. I think Dunkirk gives me emotion. I think Inception gets me emotion. I think Interstellar gets me emotion. But if you look at... I think Cameron is a better writer of dialogue than Nolan. Hot take, maybe? I don't think so. I think that would be a very valid take by most people.
I actually agree with that. I think that some of the, like, tough person speak of a James Cameron movie I really appreciate.
Yeah, I don't think, like, I think Cameron can have clunky dialogue, but I'd rather have the clunky dialogue than it always being clunky exposition. Granted, we do get that moment where, like, they look at the camera and this goes like, yeah, these sell for 80... Honestly, is it like 80 million? I feel like that's pretty cheap for, like, a juice that can stop you from aging.
That's what I thought, too.
But I guess really? I don't know how inflation is in the future. It's not as bad as in Jurassic World, too, where I think it's like, the bidding for these dinosaurs will start at $10 million. I'm like, $10 million for a dinosaur is really cheap. Like,
yeah,
what?
like, with a couple billion, you can't even buy Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's life juice.
But I guess also it's something where these movies take, like, place 200 years in the future. So I guess maybe we can be like, well, I guess we don't know how everything costs in general. Money's a weird concept anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned inflation. I feel like that makes 80 million even less. So.
Well, but maybe it's opposite inflation when, like, the world's economy collapsed because there's, like, a bunch of deleted scenes for first Avatar. It's like, yeah, Avatar, like, Earth is really terrible right now. And they kind of all say this, it's like, Earth is dying. So it's like, maybe, like, the economy's collapsed so much that 80 million is a lot of money for everyone. I don't know.
Perhaps.
All right. I think we've wrapped up.
Yep. Yeah.
What do you give Avatar: The Way of Water?
I'm going to give Avatar: The Way of Water... I'm going to give it some whale juice.
So it never ages?
I
don't think it will age.
No,
so
I think I got to give it some whale juice because I am ambivalent about its value.
So, what I'm going to give it to is Alright, so hear me out here. I'm going to go to the ocean of Pandora. I'm going to deep dive just to recover one thing. And then I'm going to enter the arm of the whaler into the recombent program. So there's just this walking Navi arm going around, wanting to be Korch's sidekick. And that's what I'm going to give it. The recombent arm of the whaler.
I like that.
I should write that as a fanfic, honestly. That would be a good fanfic.
The arm of the whaler.
The recombent arm. Yeah. All right.
I think that'd be cool.
Do we want to do New Year's resolutions? Didn't you say you wanted to end on that?
Oh, no, because we kind of Well, here we are. All right. What's your New Year's resolutions? For Danny, all right, we're on our way back from Pandora in Avatar world now.
What is my New Year's resolution?
Yeah.
Are we going to keep it to this podcast? Because I don't know if I want to be that open on like what my actual New Year's resolutions are.
Oh. Well, let's just end the damn podcast then, and then we can talk. This has been Avatar 2, The Way of Water. It's in theaters.
The Way of Water connects us all.
Yeah. What are we doing next time?
All right. So hear me out on this one. We are watching I believe it's a VR short film. This is a detour. Because might I remind you, even though we were just in 2022. Oh, it's on YouTube. So we're not going to watch it in VR. We are now going back to 2004. Post Incredibles. This is a detour directed by Sascha Unseld, who goes on to direct the Pixar short film, The Blue Umbrella. This film is called Strash der Specialisten. I probably butchered it. It's on YouTube. I don't know what it's about. Hopefully it's not about strippers.
Yeah, who knows? All right. So
2023 will be a year.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what's something they said. I don't know.
I remember. Wait, I got it. Hmm? Mark, why so blue?
Oh, yeah.
Looking for the Ocean is produced by Mark Young and Danny Vincent. Our original artwork was done by Sarah Knopf, and each episode is edited by me.
If you'd like to be notified about new episodes, you can find us on Facebook at Looking for the Ocean: A Pixar Journey, on Twitter at Pixar Journey, on Instagram at Looking for the Ocean Pod, and on our website, lookingfortheoceanpixar.podbean.com.
If you want to know what I'm up to, or find me on social media, you can head over to markyoungperformer.com.
And if you'd like to see all my takes on all the movies, you can find me on Letterboxd at Blankmans. If you'd like to hear me on another podcast, I also have The Snub Club, a podcast about film history. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.